Receptionist Kalita Thompson is suing the father of her child, truck driver Demetrius Webb, for filing a false restraining order, the return of personal belongings, and unpaid daycare expenses. Demetrius is countersuing for the return of jewelry and for moving expenses.
Yeah, this is case number 460 on the calendar in the matter of Thompson versus Webb. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Thompson, Mr. Webb used to be your boyfriend. And
Correct.
He also is the father of a child that you have, a boy.
Correct.
According to your complaint, while you were living together, Mr. Webb filed false domestic violence charges against you, causing you to be taken into custody. While you were in custody, it is your claim that he took property that belonged to you from the house, which was your house.
Correct.
And in addition, he committed himself to paying for one half of your son's daycare.
Correct.
Which he has not done.
Correct.
Mr. Webb says that he rightfully filed an application for a protective order because you attacked him, that he took nothing from the apartment that was not his, and in addition, he says that you made the home environment unsafe, causing him to move, and he wants moving expenses. Right?
Correct.
All right, Ms. Thompson, how old is your child?
He's 3 years old.
And when did you and Mr. Webb move into this house together?
About a year and a half ago.
Was it your house?
Yes, it is.
Is it a house, an apartment, a rental? What is it?
It's a rental.
How long have you lived there?
It's been 2 years in November.
So he moved in with you?
Mm-hmm.
After the baby was born?
Yes.
And your name is the only name on the lease?
Correct.
Tell me about the allegations of domestic violence. When did he file those charges?
On November 3rd.
Of 2004?
Correct.
Tell me about the incident that sparked that.
Okay. On November 3rd, I had just came back from school, and I was laying down in the bed, and he came home because we had been arguing a couple of days before the 3rd, and I had told him before the 3rd that, you know, we're not getting along. We need to go our separate ways and make some type of arrangements with our son, Derek. Well, on November 3rd, while I was laying down and he came home, he was like, do you still want us to go our separate ways? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, you're going to be out the house before I am. And I said, no, what are you talking about? He's like, you're going to be out the house before I am. I said, oh, you must have went down and filed a restraining order against me. He didn't say anything.
What would make you think that?
Because we have been arguing all since the end of October.
Well, arguing and restraining order...
and fighting.
What do you mean fighting? You mean physically fighting?
Physically fighting.
Okay. That's different. Arguing and physically fighting are two different things.
Correct.
Where I grew up, right?
Right.
Where you grew up too?
Right.
You're arguing, you have an argument. You say, no, that's the wrong thing to do. That's an argument. Fighting is using your hands, weapons,
Correct.
something else. So you were physically fighting.
Correct.
Who was fighting with whom?
He was fighting with me.
Is that right?
No.
Okay, so...
Okay, so what? Well, I'm asking you a question. Did you put your hands on him?
No, I've never put my hands on him.
Well, when you say physically fighting, explain the physical part of the fighting that was taking place.
Well, in the bathroom, there was an incident in the bathroom where he took my car keys, wouldn't allow me to take our son to the daycare. He had came home early that morning wanting to take our son to the daycare. At first I said fine, but then he started disrespecting me in front of my son, so I said, no, you're not taking our son to the daycare. So then he took my car keys and went upstairs. While he was going upstairs, he went inside the bathroom. I went to try to get my car keys from him, and he put his arm up against my neck, wouldn't allow me to...
How did you try to get your car keys from him?
Try to snatch them out of his hands.
So you were grabbing and touching him to try to get your keys.
Correct.
And he wouldn't give them to you.
Right.
So who put their hands on who first?
He put his hands on me.
No. You put your hands on him first.
Well, I grabbed the keys, I mean.
How do you grab the keys from somebody? I don't understand that. The keys are in his hand.
Right.
And what do?
I went forward, reached for the keys. He jerked back, and I said, give me my keys. Went for the keys again. He jerked back, and he's like, you're not taking Derek nowhere. And I said, yes, I am, too. I'm taking him to the daycare, and I'm going to work. And then that's when he pushed me up against the bathroom door.
What happened on November 3rd, Mr. Webb?
On November or before November? Well,
when you filed a restraining order, when was that?
November 3rd.
Can I see what you said in the restraining order, please? Okay, this is what you say. You say on November 2nd, which was the date of the abuse, sir, according to you. She did something to you at your house. I want you to tell me what it is that she did.
Okay. The reason why we were fighting is because I found her prescription for Valtrex.
Your Honor, that is not even relevant.
I found her prescription.
That is not why we were fighting.
Listen to me. Don't interrupt him. You explain to me your version of why you were fighting.
Okay, that's fine.
He didn't interrupt.
I'm sorry.
You filed this case and you said he made false allegations against you and you want to be compensated for that.
Correct.
So I have to make a determination. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Go.
Okay. I found a prescription bottle for Valtrex, and I didn't know what it was. I looked it up on the internet and found out that Valtrex is for herpes. So I found out, I assumed that from the prescription of what it was for, that she had herpes. And
Which she gave to me.
And this I didn't know nothing about.
Okay.
Okay.
So I confronted her with it, and that would cause the arguments and the fights.
Ms. Thompson, I don't know whether I would have added this to my complaint, these allegations, because this
He's
is
lying.
Well, this is his version of what you were fighting about.
Right.
Well, I
That's
have
not
proof.
what we were fighting about.
I have proof.
No, it's not. That's not what we were fighting about. We were fighting because of domestic violence abuse. That's what we were fighting about.
Well, that starts off with something, you know.
That's because he was out going around sleeping around. It wasn't me sleeping around. It was him that was sleeping around.
Well, that's possible, you see. That's possible, but domestic violence starts from an argument over something.
Correct.
So I would not have broached this issue and put it in a complaint if I were in your position, because there were certain things that are embarrassing, and quite rightfully you don't want them aired. But you brought this case.
That's right.
All right, totally up to you. If you want to withdraw that part of your complaint and just proceed with the stuff that you say he took, I'll be more than happy to drop this part of your complaint and we can move forward. It's up to you. What do you want to do?
No, I don't want to drop that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Thompson says the father of her child, Demetrius Webb, made false complaints to the police in order to get a temporary restraining order. Demetrius claims he was in fear for his life.
Okay, now I know what you were arguing about, sir.
Yes.
I just want you to tell me what you alleged she did to you on November 2nd, that you swore to the judge she did on November 2nd, which allowed the judge to issue a temporary restraining order.
Okay, well, she threatened to wreck my car.
That's not true.
I don't want... Go ahead.
She threatened to wreck my car, and while I was holding my son, she threw things at me. She threw glasses, a can of beer.
Listen to me, sir. You got to be very, very careful what you tell me, because according to what I read, that didn't happen on the 2nd of November. That, according to you, happened in October.
No, that was one incident. There were several.
I asked you what happened on November 2nd.
The 2nd of November, she also threw things at me, and she attempted to snatch my son out of my arms.
You say she punched me in the face. You
Yes,
forgot that?
and I'm getting to that.
Well, get there, sir.
She punched me in the face while I was holding my son.
And she scratched you.
Yes.
According to you. All right. Did you have a trial on this protective order?
No, we didn't have a trial.
What happened with it?
He motioned for it to be dismissed.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Why?
Because I was out of the home and I was no longer in danger. So there was no need to continue to restrain an order because I wanted her to see her son.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Webb. According to what I read here, and by the way, there's nothing contained in this police write-up about you being punched in the face or scratched. But according to what I read, you went and filed the restraining order the day before she was arrested, correct?
Yes.
So that when you went home on November 3rd, you knew that you had already filed for a restraining order.
Yes.
So the day before, you went in to file for a protective order saying, I'm in imminent danger. That's what you said.
Yes.
And what I don't understand, Mr. Webb, is then you went home. You see, if I went to file for a protective order and I was in imminent danger from somebody, I wouldn't go home to where I knew they were living. Why did you go home on the 3rd?
Okay, because they told me they were going to serve her at work, and she came home early that day. I went home. I was going to get some belongings and leave before she got home. She was home unusually early that day.
And when did you discover she was at home?
When I got there.
Was her car there?
Yes.
Well, if her car was outside, sir, then you knew she was home.
Yes.
Then what did you go inside for?
I went inside to get some belongings.
Well, Mr. Webb,
He's supposed to-
what I'm saying to you, sir, is if I were afraid for my life and my safety, I would say, I'm going to wait until they serve this lady. I'm not going to go inside. She came home early. Maybe she got a headache. I'm not going to go inside to where she's at now because I'm afraid. If I were really afraid, if it wasn't a ploy to get a little one-upmanship. Now, let me understand something. After she was arrested, how long did you stay in jail?
Not in jail. I was restrained from my house for 7 days.
So you were out of the house for 7 days.
Correct.
Where was your son?
I had my 2 oldest sons with me, and the youngest one was with him because he said that I would put my youngest son in danger or had some anger management problem.
Okay. And then you went into court, sir, and you withdrew the protective order after 7 days. Is that right?
Yes.
You mean in 7 days you got back together, you discussed things nicely with
No.
each other?
No, because the danger was in the home. I wasn't in the home anymore. I was moved out.
So this protective order that you filed, sir, the purpose of it was to allow you to peaceably move out of your home. Is that what you're telling me?
No, the purpose of it was allow me to move out of my home without being attacked.
No, the purpose
Just a
was...
second. I said to move out of your home peacefully.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, then
I'll
you
say it
were
like that.
abusing the system, sir.
No, I wasn't.
No, because that's not what you wrote here. It's not what you told the judge. If you had said in your moving papers, listen, we've been fighting. I just want to be able to get my things and move out of the house without any problem, judge would have said, fine. I will give you an order that says that you, in the company of a police officer, may go home, remove your personal property, and leave. That's not what you said here. You said you were in danger, your son was in danger.
In the time when I got the restraining order, I wasn't even planning on moving.
Let me tell you something, sir. When you get a restraining order, common sense dictates that if you are in fear for your safety and well-being, you don't file for a protective order on November 2nd, go home on November 2nd, go home on November 3rd, and then 7 days later withdraw the application once you've moved out. I know exactly what you did. Now, has anybody ever filed for a protective order against you?
Yes,
And who was that?
my ex-wife.
In what year?
In 1990, like 99.
And what happened with that protective order? Was she granted an order of protection or was it dismissed?
Dismissed.
During the time that the protective order was in place, did you have to stay away from your ex-wife?
Yes.
Did you have children together?
No.
Did you have property in the house?
Yes.
Were you allowed to get the property right away or after the protective order was vacated?
After it was served.
After it was served. So you knew the drill.
Yes, that's
Right.
That's why.
Mr. Webb, I got it, sir.
But
I got
look,
the whole thing.
I said I was expecting her. They were going to serve her at work, and she came home unused. She
He
came
knew that
home
I
Just a
early.
second. Are you telling me, sir, that she had some sort of an epiphany and she knew that something was going to happen, so she came home from work early?
I don't know.
Well,
But
I don't know either. All I know is that you filed for this protective order and you had no right to do it. You didn't file it because you were in imminent fear of your life. You filed it because you wanted an
That's
opportunity
not
to get
true.
your
I filed
property
it
out
'cause
of the
she
house.
attacked me.
Exactly.
I filed it because she
Baloney.
attacked me.
That's a...
I don't. Baloney. Now, what personal property do you claim he took that's yours? Don't give me a laundry list. I'm not interested.
He took my clothes, shoes, computer, kitchen items.
I'm not interested in kitchen items.
Well,
I'm not interested
mainly
in...
my clothes and my shoes and my computer.
What would he do with your clothes and your shoes?
Ask him that. I mean, he took even my dirty clothes, underwears and bras, and left only one shoe for each pair.
Let's go. Let's go.
No, I did not take. While she was ordered, I did not take her clothes.
What'd you take?
I took my belongings.
No, you didn't.
Listen, Miss Thompson, if you interrupt again, I'm going to dismiss your claim. Do you understand?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I took my belongings, okay? I took all the furniture in the home, which belonged to me, that I purchased.
What about her computer? Did you take a computer?
Yeah, I took the computer, which was our computer.
Okay. Who purchased the computer?
I purchased the
Be
computer.
careful of what you say to me, because you know I go into it. When you say who bought it, who paid for it?
I did.
Show me.
I don't have, she took all the papers.
Show me.
Right
She
here.
took all the receipts and
Can I see
everything.
it?
I had this computer ever since I've been going to school. I graduated in June. From the beginning, I started school because all my classes are online.
That doesn't mean
That
she
just shows
purchased
proof.
it.
Well, let me see the bill for it.
That's all they gave me was that printout.
Payment history by rental. Is this a...
I rented it from Rent-A-Center, and I was
Oh,
making payments
okay.
through Rent-A-Center.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it's our computer.
Oh,
No
can I-
question. It's our computer. Now, all right, let's leave that for a minute. Let's go to money owed for daycare expenses.
Right.
When do you say he agreed to pay for half of your son's daycare?
I believe it was like November of '04.
And where were you when he agreed to pay for half?
We were at the house.
Before or after this altercation on the 2nd or 3rd of November?
It was before.
So it had to be November 1st. Mm-hmm. Well, tell me where you were both sitting when you had this discussion that he was going to pay for half of the daycare.
In the living room on the couch.
Okay, and tell me about the conversation.
We just made a verbal agreement that he would pay for half of the child care.
Now, when did you make arrangements to go to family court with regard to support for your son?
After November 10th, after he placed the order against me regarding a restraining order.
All right. This is why, Ms. Thompson, that when you lie, it's a bad thing. Very bad thing. Because I'm going to read to you from your complaint that you swore to. You said, Demetrius and I had a verbal agreement that he would pay for half of our son's daycare until everything was resolved in the family court. Now, on November 1st, when you allegedly had this discussion sitting calmly on the couch in your house, you had no family court appointment. You didn't make a family court appointment until you started out with the criminal court with regard to the protective order.
Right.
Right. So you couldn't have had the discussion with him on November 1st.
He had been.
Baloney.
Oh,
Baloney.
God. Okay.
I don't like when you lie. You don't get moving expenses, sir. You moved out? Good for you. You weren't getting along? That's the way it goes. I think that what you did was the wrong thing, even though she lied to me, and I usually don't like that, and I would not reward her. But I think that what you did to her by filing this protective order was nothing more than vicious and vindictive. You could have handled it in a much more civilized way by saying, I'm moving out, and you could have moved out your things very easily while she was at work. And you don't have to have her, mother of your child, in a situation where she has a criminal record, where she's taken into custody, where she's served with a protective order, where she's prevented from going to her own home. You did the wrong thing, and that's going to cost you $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out.
She caught her blatantly lying and still awarded her.
I'm really grateful that, she made that decision.
If she's lying, I mean, that's it. Everything's a lie.
He was a total liar in the room.
She was lying about everything.
And Judge proved it, and I'm just really grateful that this is over with.
She created a violent situation.
He was cussing at me, calling me all kinds of names in front of my 3-year-old child.
I was upset, but, I was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm moving. That's it.
There ain't no future. We just have a communication between me and our son, and that's it.
I'm just going to take care of my son like I've been doing,
And I want him to have a part of his son's life, but he's not doing nothing now. He can't even pick him up on the days that the judge, granted him to pick him up on.
I'm just going to take care of my son, and maybe he'll see this one day and realize what kind of mother he got.
Michael Caraselli is suing business owner Mac Brame for misrepresenting the sale of a jet ski on eBay. Mac says it's Michael who is trying to run a scam.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 521 on the calendar in the matter of Caraselli versus Brame. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Caraselli, according to what I've read in your complaint, you responded to an eBay sale of a jet ski.
Yes, ma'am.
That was placed by Mr. Brame. And you traveled to where he was, you purchased it, and when you got the jet ski home, you had it examined by someone who told you that it was not functioning. It had been immersed in water and it was not usable. You then stopped payment on the check that you gave to Mr. Brame. Mr. Brame subsequently contacted the authorities. You were arrested, and you made an agreement that you would pay out the $1,700 or the $1,800 that you had agreed to pay because it was under threat of going to jail. Now you want that money back, plus punitive damages, because you say you still can't use the jet ski. In addition, according to you, Mr. Brame didn't even have title to the jet ski, which he couldn't pass on to you, and you still don't have the title.
That's correct.
Mr. Brame says you're the scam artist. Okay. So, may I see the ad that you answered, please, sir?
Your Honor, I'm not sure if he gave you.
You want to take a look at this and see?
I was just wanting to. I knew how many pages there were, and you don't have them all.
May I see what you have?
Mine are also in color that show the damages pretty well to the jet ski.
Okay. Let me tell you what I see here, Mr. Caroselli, before we get going. According to your complaint, let me see if I can find your exact words. This vehicle I paid over $1,800 for, according to you, quote, was virtually worthless and would cost over $1,800 to bring up to running condition. The eBay notice said the engine was in perfect condition and looked like new. That's what you say. But that's not true, sir. Let's look at the documents that you gave me. The first thing it says here, this item is being sold for a friend.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would have given me cause to pause right away. Why isn't the friend selling it? Why is he selling it? So you knew immediately, based upon this, that he was not the owner. Then you say that it was in like new condition, looked like new, the engine was new, but that's not what it says, sir. It says, and he clearly says, I've tried to show this thing in the worst and best condition. It was banged up against a dock, doesn't look good. He says, I have not heard the jet ski run. The battery is dead. The engine looks like new and is most likely in perfect condition, but there are no guarantees. That's very different from saying the engine is new.
Yes, ma'am.
What this man is saying to you, to a reasonable person, is, don't buy this jet ski. It's dead. I haven't heard it running. It probably is good. The engine looks good because it's clean, and there are no guarantees. So he sold this to you as is.
Yes, ma'am.
With that in mind, now you can tell me that when you got it home, what did you do?
First thing I did was bring it to a mechanic. And let me just back up by saying we talked about the condition of the jet ski. The body was understood. It was in physical bad condition. That wasn't in dispute. I wasn't.
I know we're not talking about that, sir. Just get over to the next point. The next point I made to you is sold with absolutely no guarantees. That's what he says here, and you purchased it that way. So you got it home, you had it looked at by a mechanic, and the mechanic said it's worthless. So what happened next?
Well, I brought it to the mechanic, and it wasn't that the engine was in bad shape. This apparently was underwater and sunk, which he did not tell me about. That was the basis.
Just a second. He said, I don't know anything about this jet ski. I'm selling it for a friend.
I understand that.
That's what this said.
This was somebody that he knew. He had information about the jet ski. I felt that selling something as is and that he didn't run it was different than knowing that the ski had been turned over and was submerged in water.
Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Brain knew? Stop playing with your paper, sir. It's irritating.
I'm sorry.
Knew that the jet ski had been submerged.
I don't have any personal knowledge of that other than when I opened up the compartment for the seat, the engine compartment was totally clean. It was coming from a friend of his, and he was representing the jet ski.
No. He wasn't representing anything. My question to you is, do you have any proof that he knew that this jet ski had been submerged?
I don't have any personal knowledge of that, ma'am.
That's it. So what did you do?
I stopped payment on the check immediately because I figured he felt he knew. My feeling was
I don't care what you
knew.
felt.
Okay?
I don't care what you
called
feelings go elsewhere.
Yes,
this is a court.
I called him immediately to say that I'm stopping payment on the check because I brought it to the mechanic the next day. I called him that day and left him a message.
Okay.
And told him that the check was not going to clear. I was putting a stop payment. And what did he want to do?
He's lying, Your Honor.
Don't, Mr. Brain, don't speak.
I subsequently got the report from the mechanic.
I don't care what the report says.
And then I sent him an email to say, and I have the email that I sent him saying, the ski is no good. It was full of water in the engine. You didn't tell me that. What do you want to do to pick it up? And he never responded to that email.
You mean you wanted him to come and pick it up?
I wanted him to contact me. He wasn't contacting me.
No, did you say to him, you just said to come and pick it up?
That's what the email said. I wanted to evoke a response because he wasn't returning any of my phone calls.
Just a second. What you said to him in the email was, when are you going to come and pick it up? And how long a drive was it?
About 600 miles.
600 miles.
Yes,
you wanted him to come and pick up the jet ski.
I was willing to bring it back, but he
Where
was
did
not.
you tell him that in the email?
The email didn't say that. I figured he would now finally call me if he got this email.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Caroselli says he was scammed on eBay by Mac Brain. Michael claims Mac sold him a jet ski that had been sunk.
You say that the ski can be picked up in Pineville, North Carolina at your convenience. It's about 500 miles away. This is non-negotiable, nor up for debate. That's what you said.
In the email,
okay.
yes.
Okay. Then you found out that he stopped payment on the check.
Yes.
And you contacted the authorities.
He did not.
Shh. What did you do?
First off, he never called me at all.
Okay.
I never got any correspondence in any kind of way as far as him saying...
You got the email.
Right, I got the email. At that point in time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a clue as to what my recourse should be at that point.
Let me have the name of the person, the name of the friend for whom you were selling the jet ski.
John.
John.
Who's not the owner.
Shh. Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want you to explain to me, Mr. Braham, how it came about that you got this jet ski from John.
He's been a friend for quite some years. He was opening a daycare in a local town. He was needing money. He was asking me to sell various items for him on eBay.
Why didn't he put the items up himself on eBay?
Okay, because on eBay, when you first begin to sell, you don't have any feedback. And feedback's a very important thing when you sell on eBay. It tells everyone out there if you're an honest person or a dishonest person. So when you first start selling, you have a big goose egg beside your name, which means no one knows anything about you. He asked me would I do it.
It doesn't sound like a very good friend to me, sir.
He is a good friend.
No. Good friend is not somebody that uses your good name. What he did was give you an item that caused you trouble.
Oh, it did, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it gave you trouble because either he did not represent to you that it had been a salvaged vehicle.
It wasn't a salvaged vehicle.
And how do you know that, sir?
I have the title in my possession, and it's not a salvaged vehicle.
Submerged.
Okay. Most any jet ski, what knowledge I know of jet skis, and from my seeing people on them, often they're submerged.
I'm not interested in what you think you know about jet skis, so you're not an expert on jet skis.
No, ma'am, I'm not.
I've seen them, too. So, did you ever see to it that Mr. Caroselli got clear title to this jet ski?
No, ma'am. I have an email here from Mr. Caroselli when he would not let me come get it. He said the jet ski was gone.
Oh, can I see that,
He no
please?
longer had the jet ski.
Can I see that,
yes,
please?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you do with the jet ski, sir?
I still have it.
Well, why did you tell him that you didn't? You said, sorry, it's gone now.
The state of South Carolina deemed that it was abandoned because he would not respond. I sent a letter to him.
No, but that's not what, Mr. Caroselli. What you say
it was
here...
it was sitting at the mechanic. That time it was sitting at the mechanics.
I don't care if it's sitting at the mechanics, sir. Then you say it's at the mechanics. You don't say, sorry, it's gone now.
The state of South Carolina required me to get in touch with the registered owner in reference to the ski because he would not return calls. I couldn't return it to him.
Why don't you just say that here instead of saying it's gone now, Mr.
Still
Caroselli?
never called me at no
Mr.
point.
Caroselli, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Give
ma'am,
me
I
a
do.
reasonable answer, sir.
I'm giving you the truth.
No.
I'm telling you what
So
I
you
did.
lied in here.
It was I physically.
So you lied in here.
I didn't tell him the whole truth in that response.
You didn't tell him the truth.
He didn't respond at all.
You didn't tell him the truth.
No, I did. I was not totally honest in that. You're correct.
What do you want?
He also lied, and he PayPal'd us. It was an electronic form of payment. He PayPal'd us a $100 deposit for the jet ski to hold it until the next day when he could drive from South Carolina to Kentucky to pick up the jet ski. He informed PayPal that he did not receive the merchandise, so therefore he was able to get PayPal to give him his $100 deposit back because he lied to them and told them that he did not receive the merchandise.
Show me. Did you, in fact, Mr. Caroselli, notify PayPal that you did not receive the merchandise?
I don't recall what I said to PayPal, but they refunded the $100.
He stated...
Just a second, I can read.
Okay.
Well, you did say in here, sir, the reason that you're stopping payment is that the seller has never delivered the goods, nor the title.
That is correct.
Well, he did deliver the goods. You did get the goods.
It was my belief that it wasn't what it was supposed to be.
Okay.
I was disputing the $100 deposit because it was all part of the transaction.
Ultimately, you contacted authorities because
Yes.
that's why he was arrested. Is that right?
That's correct.
And he paid you the money.
He paid me the money over several payments where he agreed with the county attorney to make these payments.
Okay. Now, what did you do with the money?
I gave it to Mr.
Your Honor, the check was made out to him. The sale was with him. He told me he was selling it for a friend who owned it, and when I got contacted by the county attorney, I had not heard one word from him since day one. I got contacted 6 weeks later saying they were coming to arrest me.
Mr. Brame, do you have the ability now, as we stand here today, to transfer title to Mr. Caroselli to this jet ski?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Show me.
This title has already been signed and notarized, which I had showed to Mr. Caroselli the day he came, and it's ready for the new owner's signature to be placed on the back.
When did you show this to him?
The day he was there. I made him a copy of it and gave it to him that day to show him that I indeed had the title and he had all the information.
Is that right, Mr. Caroselli?
He did show me that title.
So if he showed you the title, you were aware of the fact that the owner's name was...
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what you said was you went into the glove compartment of the jet ski and found paperwork. Let me see if I
the
can...
registration.
You said, upon having the jet ski in my possession, I found the registration for the vehicle in the glove compartment. The defendant was not the registered owner. This was never disclosed in the original ad. That may be true, but that's sort of trying to mislead me, sir. So you were aware of the fact when you bought the jet ski that Mr. was the owner, not Mr. Brame.
Yes, I knew that. The point is, after I stopped payment on the check, there was nothing I could do with it anyway. Putting all this aside, I didn't have the title. I had a worthless jet ski. I'm calling him, sending him an email, whether it was fully disclosed or not. He never once got in touch with me, never picked up the phone. I had this thing sitting at the mechanic who I owed money to, and he never got in touch with me one time until I get a letter from a county attorney in the end of August, 6 weeks later, saying, Mr. Brame has now contacted my office. No police report. He never went to the sheriff's department. 6 weeks later, after he's done nothing to contact.
Your Honor, that's not true.
There's no reports in his area. He never made a report.
I don't care whether there's a report or not. You took 11 days to get back to me. This is your email to him. Sorry, it's gone now. Besides, you are not the registered owner anyway to have to claim it. What I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Caroselli, is I don't think you're a scam artist. I think you were really frustrated.
I was.
And you sent him an email, and you said to him in the email that you sent to him, the engine has been underwater, it's got sludge, it's got mud, you misrepresented. You can now come 500 miles and pick it up at the Friend in North Carolina. You can come here. This is non-negotiable or up for debate. You can either accept the ski or pick it up and pay to get it back. Call me Monday and let me know what you decide.
And he never called. I used wording because I wanted to elicit a response from him.
He's not a mind reader, sir. He's not Karnak.
He wasn't returning.
You did the wrong thing, Mr. Caroselli.
Your Honor, we did correspond with him. I have a copy of the email where we responded to him. We said at what address and phone number is the jet ski at. We were willing to drive there and pay that $100.
I never received this email.
Just a second.
That's when you responded to us.
This is July 24th. Oh, yeah, you received this email, sir, because the next day you responded. July 24th, they said, at what address and phone number is the jet ski?
Then I misspoke.
Yeah, you misspoke. On the next day, you say you took 11 days to get back to me. Sorry, it's gone now. Mr. Caroselli, unfortunately, sir, you bought yourself an as-is item.
Yes, ma'am.
And here's the title.
Your Honor.
It's signed over to you. It's been paid for.
Yes,
now you have the title.
May I say?
Yes.
It's not even so much the jet ski. I understand with the jet ski, buyer beware and all that. The point is, after all this, the contact with the county attorney. None of this had to happen. This was all inappropriate. For 6 weeks, nothing happens. They don't go to the police. I don't get a call from the Kentucky State Police. I get a call.
Receive this letter.
It's very important.
I got that letter from the county attorney saying that I've defrauded him because I've tried to deprive him of
just a second. So you were contacted.
6 weeks later by the county attorney.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a second. So what did you do when you received this?
I called the county attorney immediately to say, this is a civil matter. This is a dispute between two people. He was saying that I wrote him a bad check. This is an insufficient funds issue.
Listen to me, sir. Listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You chose to put him in the position of having to be the active person, the person to go to court and sue you. That was your tactic.
Yes, ma'am.
And whatever emails that went back and forth, some of which I've alluded to
yes, ma'am.
Here, he chose to call the county attorney and to say, listen, he now has my jet ski, and he says I have to come and get it 600 miles, and he now has the money. That's not fair. And the county attorney contacted you and you said he's not getting his money and he's not getting his jet ski. Listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
What you're complaining about is not the title, because you have the title. But you're complaining about the fact that he waited 6 weeks. You're not paying attention, Mr. Harris. Are you a lawyer?
No, ma'am.
Because you say something
Yeah,
here.
he told us he was.
Just a second. You say something here.
Wrote in the
Listen
email
to me. You wrote in the email. I had it confirmed by 2 different watercraft mechanics that, without a doubt, the ski was underwater, and you failed to disclose it. Except this is true. I practice law as well. It is a violation of the law to sell a vehicle of any type without full disclosure. So you lied to him when you said to him...
I wanted to elicit a response.
Well, here's your response. You have the
us.
title, you have your jet ski, the rest of your case is dismissed.
Such a
That's
lie.
all.
Thank you.
You may step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
He paid me for the jet ski finally, and I hadn't heard from him in quite some time, so I assumed it was over.
He was selling a bogus jet ski for somebody who couldn't sell it themselves.
I received some paperwork in the mail showing where he was suing me.
He got the authorities involved because he refused to contact me, and currently I'm pursuing a lawsuit against him and the attorney for malicious prosecution.
It was very much spelled out in the paper along with pictures to show the jet ski.
I was trying to make it sound like he had no choice but to come get the ski.
Basically, he decides then that you can come here and get it, or I'll give you $300 for it.
He never picked up the phone one time to make one phone call.
He came there originally just to steal the jet ski, not to pay for it.
I was falsely arrested at work. I lost my job.
It did take me quite a while to decide what I wanted to do, if I wanted to drive to South Carolina or get the law enforcement involved or whatever.
They came and served a warrant for my arrest that he attested to that I defrauded him when he knows that it's just not what happened.
He had the item, disposed of the item, and took the money back.
Be careful what you buy.
27-year-old forklift operator Terrell Brown is suing his former friend, 13-year-old Kaylee Pritchett, and her mother, Wendy Pritchett, for having him falsely arrested. Kaylee says Terrell pulled a gun on her.
Yeah, this is case number 546 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Pritchett. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
This is your daughter?
Yes.
How old are you?
13.
You, Mrs. Pritchett, have no first-hand knowledge of the facts surrounding this case, only what your daughter told you. Is that right?
This is true. Yes, thank you.
Why don't you have a seat? Okay. Mr. Brown, it's your complaint that this young lady filed a false police report about you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And as a result of that false police report, you spent a day in jail. You had to hire a lawyer. You had to come up with some bail.
Yes.
Well, let's start with how you know each other. Who wants to tell me how you know each other? Nobody. So let's start with you, Mr. Brown. Why don't you tell me how you know this 13-year-old girl?
Well, I had a neighbor that lived next door to me, and she would come over there with her friends and ask...
This young lady would come over to your neighbor's house?
Yes, Your Honor.
With her friends. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who is this neighbor of yours?
His name was Jimmy.
You know Jimmy?
Yes, Your Honor.
How far does Jimmy live from where you were living?
About a block away.
And you would go over to Jimmy's house? How old is Jimmy?
22.
He was a friend of yours?
Kinda. I didn't really know him.
Well, what would you go over to his house for?
We just went over there, and like me and my friends, we would go over there and talk to him until later on when he started buying alcohol, and we would go
Keep
there.
your voice up. All right, so you would go over and talk to him for a while, and then later on he would buy alcohol?
Yes.
What would he do with the alcohol?
He would give it to us, and we would either sometimes drink it with him, or we would leave and go drink it somewhere else.
Who would you go over to Jimmy's house with?
Just me and like 3 other friends.
Well, what are their names?
Like Jasmine.
Not like. I want to hear their names.
Jasmine, Brittany.
Jasmine. How old is Jasmine?
14.
Who else?
Brittany, and she's 15. Jessica, who's 13. That's pretty much.
All right, so you and your 3 friends would go over to this 22-year-old boy, man, person's house, and after chatting, he would buy you alcohol, which you would either consume there or you would take elsewhere. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened to Jimmy?
He moved out.
I'm still not hearing how you know. Your name is Kaylee?
Yes.
Kaylee.
After he moved out, she would come over then, because Jimmy was my friend. So after he moved out, her and her friends would ask me to buy him alcohol. So I did on occasions twice.
So that this young lady who's 13 years old and her 14, 15, and 13-year-old friend came over and said, well, Jimmy's not here anymore, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Huh?
Yes.
So would you buy us alcohol? Who asked him to buy you alcohol?
All of us did.
Did you pay him for it?
No, we didn't.
You didn't pay him for it with money?
No.
Did you pay him for it with anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brown, why did you buy these children alcohol, sir?
Well, I knew they weren't 21, but I also knew that they said that they were older than what they were. You know, she said that she was 16. And
Well, they certainly weren't old enough to buy alcohol, because if they were old enough to buy alcohol, Mr. Brown, they would have bought it themselves.
Yes, they would have.
So why would you buy children alcohol?
It was wrong for me to do. But
Right. How many times did he buy you alcohol, Kaylee?
At least 5 times that I can remember.
Well, there come a time, Kaylee, that you and your friends got annoyed with him and vandalized his car?
No, Your Honor.
Did you put snow in his car?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's vandalizing his car. Who put snow in his car? Is not an answer.
I did, and my friend Jesse.
Now, why did you do that, Kaylee?
Well, he wouldn't answer his door, and then we went and knocked on his window, and he was sleeping, and we told him that we were going to go fill his car up with snow if he didn't.
If he didn't what?
Answer his door. And then,
Well, why did you want him to answer the door, Kaylee?
I do not remember. It was a while ago. I don't remember why we went there. But
Well, would you go there for any other reason than for him to buy alcohol?
yeah, sometimes we went over there just to hang out and to listen to music or to get cigarettes. And then we...
So you either wanted alcohol or cigarettes when you went to his house, and he wouldn't open the door. Is that right?
Your Honor.
So as a result of that, you and your friend opened up his car doors and filled his car up with snow.
Yes, Your Honor.
And sorry. Sorry. You think I'm being too hard on her?
No.
Good.
I just wanted to add something.
Perfect.
Sorry.
After you filled his car up with snow, what happened?
Me and my friend, we just took off, and then we didn't come back for a few weeks.
But then you decided to come back.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
More alcohol.
And did he answer the door this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did he buy you the alcohol?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did there come a time he decided not to buy alcohol for you?
No, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about the time that you allege that he pulled a gun on you. Because that's what the complaint was.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me about that.
Well, I went down and I met my friend, and then...
Friend who?
My friend Heather. And she brought 2 other people, Desiree and this other girl I did not even know. And Desiree has always had a problem with me. She did not like me. And when we ran away together, we would always go over to Terrell's house and we would get alcohol. And that day she wanted...
When did you run away?
I came back on Thanksgiving. I left like a week before Thanksgiving.
Why did you run away?
I do not even know. I just decided that I didn't want to be home, and me and my friends just left home and didn't come back.
Who lives in your house?
My mother, my father, and my 2 brothers.
How old are your brothers?
They're 12 and almost 9, so 8.
So you set the example for your 2 older brothers. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. 27-year-old Terrell Brown says his former friend, 13-year-old Kaylee Pritchett, had him falsely arrested and thrown in jail. Kaylee says she and her friends used Terrell to buy alcohol and cigarettes.
Does your mother beat you?
No, Your Honor.
What about your father?
No, Your Honor.
Do they give you food?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you sleep shackled to a radiator?
No, Your Honor.
Well, then, can you explain to me why you and your friend left home?
Just because we wanted to get out of my house because my parents had strict rules, and...
Well, I'd like you to tell me about the strict rules.
That we couldn't do anything, we could not smoke.
You couldn't smoke? You should... Couldn't smoke?
We couldn't leave the house after, 9 p.m.
Couldn't leave? You got this? You're following this?
I'm following.
You couldn't smoke. You couldn't drink, I assume.
Uh-uh.
And you couldn't leave the house after 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Is she behaving any better now?
Yes. It's been a long haul, but yeah.
For how long?
Probably, I'd say since Thanksgiving, since she came home, and she's been in counseling with us as a family, and it's helped a lot.
Kaylee, you do not sound like an unintelligent girl, which means that it seems to me that you have the necessary brain cells to be okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Some people, unfortunately for them, are born and they have to struggle. Sounds to me as if you don't have to struggle. You're just putting all of your efforts in the wrong direction.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, when you start to make mistakes when you're 13, unless you fix them fast, they last your whole life. So it's nice to hear from your mother that you seem to be doing better the last several months. You're doing better in school?
Yes, Your Honor.
What about these girlfriends of yours?
I do not speak to them anymore.
That sounds like a perfect idea. Now, let's get back to the gun episode.
Well, I went and met my friends and this girl, Desiree.
And you went to his house for alcohol?
Yes, and she told me that if I did not end up getting it, the house can get beat up, so I was doing everything that I could to get it.
Desiree said to you, if you don't get into the house and get some alcohol from Mr. Brown, I'm going to beat you up.
Yes.
Is that the story that you're selling today?
Yes, Your
Oh,
Honor.
okay. So, come on, I'm listening.
We went over to his house, and he said he was going to get it, but he had a few errands to run. And Desiree's like, do not let him leave. I was like, all right. So Desiree went outside when he was leaving, and we sat on his hood of his car. And I got on after her, and we weren't going to let him leave. So he decided to go back inside. Well, he wasn't going to let us in, so we all pushed the door back open, and we got in.
Got into his house?
Yeah, when he was right there. But
you pushed the door to get into his house? That's trespassing. That's a crime. You know that. You understand that. That's a crime. First of all, you sat on his car and vandalized it, and then you pushed your way into his house. That's a crime. That's trespass.
And then he told us to leave, and Desiree said no. And then we all decided not to leave. So he kicked this chair, and then he threw his keys down, and he said he'll make us leave. Well, then he went into the room, and he came back out, and he was putting something in the back of his pants. And he sat down, and he told us to leave. And Desiree said, oh, you think you're all bad now because you got a gun? And that's when he freaked out and he said, leave, and we said no, and that's when he pulled out the gun. And the first thing I did was run out the door, and my friends came right after me, and he came outside and he was yelling, just on the top of his lungs, just yelling at us, and we just took off and we went home. And we did not call the cops till the next day.
What'd you call the police for?
Because we were scared, because he was telling us about all...
All you have to do is not go over and bother him anymore.
Well, no.
Oh. Mr. Brown, how old are you?
27.
You spent the day in jail?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good for you. Probably should have spent a couple more. I'm not sure whether you had a gun or whether you didn't have a gun. Certainly, Kaylee here had no right being in your house, had no right committing a crime. You told her to leave. You understand that, Miss Pritchett?
Yes.
Told her to leave. She didn't leave with her friends. He begged her to leave. They threatened him. All of that, Mr. Brown, was brought about by your actions. Because you supplied the girls with alcohol. And that's what happens when you do the wrong thing. When you do the wrong thing, you never know where it's going to come back and bite you in the behind. You understand, Mr. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you knew you were wrong. And you knew it would come out to no good, right?
Yep.
So, there's an old legal doctrine. And it's called the doctrine of clean hands. And it means when a person comes to court, and you're asking a court to do the right thing, you have to come to court and say, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't bring on any of this myself. I have clean hands. You can't come here and say, I have clean hands. You committed a crime by furnishing alcohol to minors. I want you to make yourself feel a little bit better, Mr. Brown. Say the police arrested you and held you for 24 hours because you broke the law by supplying alcohol to minors, instead of for threatening them with a gun. Either way, you spent a day in jail. It wasn't enough. You contributed to the delinquency of minors by furnishing them alcohol. And you're just lucky that none of them either got sick or got hurt as a result of becoming intoxicated with the alcohol you provided them, Mr. Brown. We understand each other.
Yes, Your Honor.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They came over, wanted me to buy him alcohol, so I bought it for him, and that was it.
He's older. You'd think he'd be wiser not to buy minors alcohol and cigarettes.
I messed up, and I did stuff I shouldn't have done.
You want to see the best for your kids, and she hasn't been smart.
Keep in school and not do it. It's not worth it to get yourself in trouble and put your parents in pain.
27-year-old service technician Alex Caballero is suing the mother of his child, 26-year-old Lena Taru, for kicking his front door. Alex says Lena was angry he filed a report with Child Protective Services.
This is case number 578 on the calendar in the matter of Caballero versus Taru.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Caballero, Miss Taru was formerly your girlfriend.
Yes.
You have a child together.
Correct.
How old is that child?
7 years old.
A little girl.
Yes.
And you have an order of visitation with the child.
Yes.
You are currently married, I assume, to this lady.
Yes.
And you have 1 or 2 children?
I have 2 children and 1 on the way.
According to your complaint, during a scheduled visitation, you noticed that your daughter had a recurrence of a severe eczema problem that she suffers from.
Yes.
You tried to contact her mother. Her mother had turned off her cell phone. So you contacted the child's grandmother,
Correct.
Miss Taru's mother, and you told her that you were planning on taking the child to the doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you went to work.
That's correct.
Miss Taru became upset that you planned to take the child to the doctor. She came to your home when your wife was at home, and according to you, broke your security door.
Yes.
Ms. Taru says you owe her over $4,000 in child support, so what are you complaining about?
The child support's getting taken out of my check. My check's getting garnished every week.
What is the child support order that you have for your daughter?
It's, I believe it's $400 something a month.
How much is this child support order?
$214.
$214 a month.
Correct. He does have another child, is the reason that they take more than just my amount out. He has another child with a mother that also garnishes wages out of his check.
Is that right?
Yes.
You got a lot of children, Mr. Caballero. You must be very rich.
With children, yeah.
Those are your riches, sir. But sometimes you have to think with this. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now you can stand up. Your name is Mrs. Caballero, and you tell me, Mrs. Caballero, what happened when Miss Taru came to your house?
Lena made arrangements with my mother-in-law for the daughter to come over for the weekend on February 11th. And after dinner, I decided to give her a bath. When I got her ready for her bath, I saw that she had whelps on her from her eczema, and she has sores on her arms, all over her chest, thighs, and both eyes, and it was fully all over her body. And when I did give her a lukewarm bath, she did cry that it did hurt her skin.
How long has your daughter suffered from eczema?
Since she was born, Your Honor, since she was 6 days old.
When was the last time prior to February 11th that the child had seen a physician?
On January 31st.
When had it become so exacerbated to cause concern to the police officer who came and saw the child?
It's always been that way, Your Honor. I have a letter from her doctor.
I'd like to see the letter from her doctor.
I got pictures of it also.
I'd like to see the photographs.
Can I mention that it's hereditary, and my sister also suffers the severe disease as well and has the same exact symptoms, and she's 24 years old, Your Honor.
And that was just recent pictures.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
This letter from the doctor, which you furnished me,
correct,
says that you told the doctor that Alexa, that's your daughter,
correct,
was found with her stepsister involved in sexual play.
Correct.
How old is that child?
At that time, she was 2 years old.
And how old was your daughter?
I want to say 5.
So they're baby playing.
Correct.
All right. What I need, because he says that he couldn't get this eczema under control, so we sent you to a dermatologist.
Yes.
Doctor, I'd like to see a report is when you last took the child to see Dr.
I don't have a statement.
Well,
with
when
me.
prior to February 11th had the child seen Dr.
The beginning of January.
This is too serious a condition, madam, to wait 6 weeks.
No, Your Honor, I have several medications that my daughter is on that I use on a typical basis.
Did the police officer who responded that day tell you you better take this child immediately to the doctor?
No, she suggested that I take her to the doctor, or she would have, well, yes, actually, yes, you're right, correct. or that she would call an ambulance and have
You're
her
absolutely right, because the police officer who responded that day viewed this situation as critical enough to say, unless you guarantee me that you're going to take the child immediately to the doctor, she's taking the child by ambulance to the hospital.
Correct.
So when did you take the child to the dermatologist?
Oh, I didn't take her to the dermatologist, Your Honor. I took her to the regular doctor because it was a Saturday.
When did you take her to the dermatologist?
She hasn't been, Your Honor.
That's neglect.
I have no medical coverage right now, Your Honor.
I don't care what you have to do to get enough money to take your child to the dermatologist. Your doctor, in a letter that you gave me, madam, from your doctor, the doctor says, this problem is so serious and so intractable that I cannot treat the child. Correct. So I referred her to a dermatologist, which you didn't take her to.
He also doesn't provide medical coverage for my daughter, Your Honor.
What difference does that make? He said, because listen to me very carefully. I read your answer. Your answer said that you got angry, that he was going to take the child to the doctor.
Correct.
So you went over to pick her up.
I did.
And it would seem to me that on February 11th, since you haven't had the child to the dermatologist since the beginning of January because you have no medical coverage, that if the child's father was prepared to take her to a doctor to look into this situation that was unremitting while in your care, you wouldn't get angry. You would say, thank you.
No.
Thank you. Not, she's mine and I'll take care of it.
Your Honor,
Listen to me. That's what a mother does. A mother does not say, I'm not going to let him because that's my job and he has no right to do that. Mother says, if I don't have medical coverage and my husband doesn't provide enough for me to take the child to the dermatologist, if the child's father's going to do that, let him. That's great just as long as the child gets cared for. So the fact that you went over there and made a fuss over there that day is stupid.
I did take my daughter to the doctor that day. I could not take her to dermatology that day.
The doctor says he can't help her. This is the letter you gave me. The doctor says I cannot help her. That was a Saturday. Did you take the child to the dermatologist Monday?
No, because my coverage ended.
Is she not following me?
I could not.
Is she not following me?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Habanero says his child's mother, Lena Teru, damaged his front door by kicking it. Alex also says Lena is neglecting their daughter.
You got bigger problems than a door. I don't know what you're here wasting your time for with a door for $300 that got broken. I would save my energy and my time off from work by pursuing, if you feel as if you could provide the child with a better situation, with pursuing either more liberal rights with regard to this child's medical care or custody of this child if you feel as if you can provide for the child so that a child doesn't have to have these kind of wilts because these two people can't provide the child with appropriate medical care. Do you understand?
He now provides medical coverage for us, Your Honor.
It's not good enough. I guarantee you that if he was walking around with this on his behind, or you would have gotten yourself to a doctor and had it taken care of. Guaranteed.
On his knee.
And the fact that this child is 7 years old and has no voice, and you have to be this child's voice, is to me an abomination that you would allow the child to walk around for 6 weeks like this. Now, you want to talk about your door?
Yeah.
How did the door get broken?
When she, after that incident, I had a phone conversation with her stating that she was going to come over and pick up the daughter. I stated to her that her daughter needed to see a physician that day, and then she continued to call me names over the phone, so I hung up on her.
I asked about the door.
This getting to the door.
Get there faster. I'm losing patience with the door when I'm looking at it behind like this. I'm losing patience with everybody.
She came to the house, continued to ring the doorbell. I answered the front door, and we did have a security screen door. She asked for her daughter. I told her no. And she continued to say, I'm going to kick you. I'm going to kill you. As soon as you come out of here, I'm going to get you. And I told her, if she don't get off my property right now, I'm going to call the sheriffs. And as soon as I said that, she started to pull and bang and yank on the security screen door.
You have a picture of the door?
I also have a witness, that my neighbor, that also seen all of it.
Is the witness here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me see. Where's the witness?
He's in the back.
Okay, let's bring out the witness, please.
You swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes.
State your name for the record, please.
Travis Smith.
Mr. Smith, are you a neighbor of these people?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'm going to direct your attention to the 12th of February of 2005. Were you home on that day?
Yes, I was.
Did you witness an altercation between this defendant and the plaintiff's wife?
Yes.
Would you tell me what you observed, please?
I heard a bunch of yelling and screaming.
What did you hear?
I heard, open the door, give me my kid, something to that effect. A lot of profanity.
By whom?
Defendant. At the time, I didn't realize it was actually her that was screaming the profanity. I thought it was the people down the street that were fighting. I came outside, and when I noticed that it was actually coming across the street, I approached her, just trying to figure out what was going on.
What did you say to her?
Basically, I asked, what's going on? Because I'm new to the neighborhood. I want to, trying to learn my neighbors. And
okay,
she's...
she said, what's going on? And she said...
Oh, I'm trying to get my baby. They have my baby, and she won't let me have her. She goes, I have the cops on the way, and I walked her out onto the sidewalk. And I said, well, if the police are on their way, then why don't you stand here, calm down, let the police do their job.
Okay. Is that all you saw?
Pretty much.
Can I mention my side of what he said?
Go ahead.
When he came outside, he asked me, is that Alexis and Alicia fighting again? And I said, no, it's me screaming at her to give me my daughter.
Is that what you said?
No. I didn't even know her name at the time. I didn't even know he had another daughter. That's how new to the street I was.
He might have said Alex and his wife fighting again.
I said, are they fighting again? I thought it was people down the street.
He had said that they were fighting last weekend, the weekend prior to the February 12th.
No.
She was so upset she doesn't know.
Well,
the only thing she wasn't upset about, the only thing Miss Theroux wasn't upset about was this.
That's...
You owe him the money for the door, madam, $322. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just want to get my daughter taken care of, and I just want her to take responsibility for the actions she did.
I think she's jealous, and because that was her first love, and I came in between.
I told her I'd kill her. She didn't give me my daughter. That's right, I did.
All parties in the matter of Ng versus Riley. Step forward, please.
Eye care professional Monica Ng is suing her one-time golf partner, technical consultant Steve Riley, for medical and dental bills. Monica says she was hit in the face by Steve's golf ball.
Missing, according to your complaint, you were playing golf, and you were in a foursome?
Yes.
And Mr. Riley was in your foursome?
Yes.
And you got hit with a golf ball that he sliced. You want him to pay for all of your medical bills, you had dental problems, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Riley says, sometimes happens when you play golf. Not every shot's a perfect shot. It's part of the risk you assume when you play the game. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this happen, Miss Ng?
On January 31st at the Lakewood Country Club.
And how long have you been playing golf with Mr. Riley?
I've never played with him before.
So you were teamed up that day?
By the starter at the country club.
What hole were you playing when this incident happened?
The 9th hole.
And who teed off first?
The guys teed off first, and then I teed off last because I tee off from the ladies' tees.
After you teed off, everyone left the tee, is that right?
Yes, we all walked to our balls.
And was your ball in front of Mr. Riley's ball?
It was horizontal, diagonal to his ball.
And he shot first?
Yes.
And you were watching him?
Yes, I was watching him the whole time.
Why didn't you stand behind where he was?
For slow play, any reasonable experienced golfer would walk to their ball so that you don't delay play, because slow play is the #1 problem with golfing.
No, the #1 problem with golfing is getting hit with a golf ball. So when I was reading your complaints, and I've been out on a golf course, although I am not a proficient golfer, since I don't know who I'm playing with, as you didn't know who you were playing with, and you're not sure of their skill, I wouldn't get into a position where you were anywhere in harm's way. I would stand well behind that person.
I felt I was not standing in a location where I was in harm's way.
But you were, right? Because you didn't play golf with him before. You didn't know whether he was a good player or a bad player, whether he sliced, whether he was straight, whatever. But you don't think that you have any responsibility to worry about yourself?
Yes, I have the responsibility to worry about myself, but I was standing in a location next to my ball. I was watching him the whole time.
You think he aimed at you?
No, he did not aim at me. It was an accident, but still, he's liable for any damages or injury caused by his actions, as stated in the golf course rules at the Lakewood Country Club.
Well, take a look at the rules of the Lakewood Country Club and see what they say.
Safety practices.
Let me see what the safety practices are. Yeah, well, this says that any person entering or playing on the golf course assumes full responsibility for his or her personal safety. That's you. And property. Players are liable for any accident, injury, and or property damage caused by their actions. Well, you're saying that his actions caused you to be injured.
Correct.
I'm saying your actions caused you to be injured. Miss Ang, my dear, when you play golf, there's a golf ball. That golf ball doesn't always go where it's supposed to go. Have you watched professionals play golf?
Yes.
Have you seen professionals sometimes slice their ball and it goes into a gallery?
Yes.
You think that they're liable if their ball hits somebody? They're not. Players not liable. That's what the game is about. Somebody hits a very hard ball. Sometimes it goes where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. If it always went where it was supposed to go, nobody would watch the game.
We have a verbal agreement after the injury. He was very apologetic for hitting me.
Yes.
And he gave me a cellular number so I can contact him so that I can get his home address to mail him the medical expenses.
Did you say that you would cover the medical expenses, Mr. Riley?
What I said was that if she wanted to go to the emergency room right then, I would help her with expenses. I did not say I would cover a week off of work. I did not say
Absolutely not.
Right.
You're not responsible for a week
Right.
off from work. You're not responsible for her pain and suffering. You're not responsible for any of that.
Right.
So did you give him the medical bill from the emergency room?
I had not received it yet when I wrote him that certified letter.
Fine. What was your bill from the emergency room? $602 with the emergency bills. Is that right, sir? Now that you agreed to pay, according to you.
Yes.
Fine. Anything else?
Yes. A few months later, I noticed the back of my tooth was swollen, and I went to the dentist, and that's when they told me that I have ligament damage due to trauma.
Could be. That's not what he agreed to pay for. He agreed to pay for your emergency room bills. But for the fact that he agreed to pay for the emergency room bills, he would not be responsible. You assumed the risk when you got on the golf course of whatever happens when you play golf, unless, of course, he picked up his club and flung the club in anger, or if he hit you with his club, or if he ran you over with a golf cart. That you don't assume the risk, but you do assume the risk that somebody may not hit the ball straight, so you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in harm's way. And if being in a position where you were a little bit of a slow player is more important than keeping yourself out of harm's way, that's a choice that you make. He can't guarantee where his golf ball's going to go. If he could, he'd be Tiger Woods' partner, right?
Absolutely.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $602. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think the judge made a knowledgeable decision.
I saw him hit his ball, and it came right directly at me. I dodged, but not fast enough.
Fortunately, it was a glancing blow and not frontal.
It was a horrible incident. I want to forget about it.
I did agree to pay for the emergency room costs, and that's fair.
I know he did not mean to hit me.
If Beverly Grogan is suing her son, 28-year-old DJ Patrick Patterson, and his wife, 24-year-old market manager Selena Patterson, for unpaid rent and for extensive damage to her home.
Yeah, that's case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Grogan versus Patterson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mrs. Grogan, this is your son, and this is his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this gentleman?
This is my husband.
Are you afraid to stand up?
No, ma'am.
Good. Stand up next to your wife. Are you his father?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so this is your second stepfather. How long have the two of you been married?
2 years.
2 years?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
It's good that you remember.
Yes, ma'am. It's usually the other way. Yes.
Okay. And there was some sort of a problem that occurred between you and your son.
Yes, ma'am.
And you evicted them.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went back into the house, you saw some extensive damage. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want him to be responsible for the rent that he owes you, as well as for the damage that he did to the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And your son says that there was never an agreement to pay rent. that there was an agreement that he pay your insurance, some sort of insurance, that he paid that faithfully, and he's going to prove to me that he paid that faithfully, and that was the only agreement that you had with regard to finances, and that you are, according to him, a meddling lady who wants to control his life, and when you had a fight with him, you hit him over the head with a soda bottle, and he and his wife and children moved out of the house, and he caused absolutely no damage.
Correct.
Do you work, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a DJ.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I'm an assistant market manager.
Okay. So you have two incomes. What are you doing living in your mother's house?
She told me that it was my house for years. Her and my father bought the house when I was younger, and I've always lived there. So she bought her another home and moved it in behind us, and she told us that we could live there. She said, as long as you help me out with my insurance, there's no rent or anything.
Okay. Tell me what the insurance was every month.
$278.
$278.
That's what we pay a month.
What other expenses did you pay on the house, Mr. Patterson?
I replaced some doors.
No, expenses, regular expenses.
As in?
Heating, utilities?
Yeah, we
paid the utility bill and the phone bill, but they were also in her name.
I don't care whose name they were in. You were living there.
Yes, ma'am. I paid them.
Okay.
Until she'd come down and cut them off in 100-degree heat with my kids in the house.
Okay, well, you had a fight with them. You had a fight with your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you have a fight with your mother?
I don't recall the exact date.
Give me the month.
May.
May.
And how long had you been living in the house up until that point?
I've been there 7 years.
But she left for a period
of 2 years.
2 years and come
and
back.
I come back September 2001.
When she was pregnant again.
Ah. So you've been living there on and off for the last 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're telling me, Miss Grogan, that your son and his wife never paid rent?
They paid rent one time.
One time?
One time.
When?
I don't even remember it.
It was so long ago.
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
Oh, okay. And you filed eviction proceedings against them after this May argument?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Mr. Patterson, about the argument?
She asked me for part of the cool ceiling, the trailer.
Part of the what?
Cool ceiling of the mobile home.
I don't understand what that...
It's a seal that goes on top. It's supposed to make the house cooler, and it seals it up from any leaks or anything occurring.
Okay, so she asked you for that?
She asked me for half, yes, ma'am. And I told her that I'm hard-headed, so she told me that I was going to pay it.
Just a second. So she said, she asked if you would pay it, and then you probably said no.
I said, if I have it, I will. And she said, well, you're going to pay it.
Okay, so you said, if I had it, I would pay it.
If I have it at the time. She wanted it later on in the week, and I said, if I have it at that time, I will give it to you. But she said, well, you're going to pay it, and I come by honest from her. If you're going to pay it. And at that point, when she told me I was going to pay it, I would have died before I would have paid it then. To be honest with you.
So what did you say to your mother, who's allowed you to live rent-free in the house with your wife and 2 children for 7 years?
After she got on the porch, she made some more threats.
What did you say to her? I don't care what she said to you. She brought you into this world. She can take you out. What did you say to her?
You can't say it in a courtroom, really.
Oh, you can say anything here, sir. We have the ability to go, bleep, bleep.
I told her, you.
Nice.
So
let me see what I got here. I got a mother. How many children do you have, Miss Grogan?
We have one.
You have one?
Just one.
Him. See what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket?
But I can
Just a second. Let's see what we got here, Mr. Patterson. We have a mother who allows you and your wife to live rent-free in her home. And she comes down and she says to you, listen, you don't pay any rent in the house. The house needs some repairs on the outside. I want you to pay, not the whole thing. I want you to pay half. And you say to her, if I had it. And she says to you, oh, you're going to have it. And then you curse at her.
That was only after a few more
arguments. I mean, we went on arguing. This happened when we got outside. And then she turned and threw a bottle at me and hit me in the head with a bottle.
Sure did.
Well, she denies that. My little girl.
You are lying. You were in the house.
No,
my
it
little girl
wasn't.
asked me
Miss
every
Grogan,
day
Miss
of
Grogan.
my life why her Grammy hit her daddy in the head, and why every time they go over
Because
there,
he had a big fresh mouth.
she has no reason.
Listen to me. Because he had a big fresh mouth.
Well, and so does she.
I want you to face left.
I'm sorry.
Your other left.
Okay.
You see this woman?
Yes, ma'am.
20 years from now, you won't remember what she looks like. Now I want you to turn around and face right.
What do you think?
That's your mother. 20 years from now, she's still going to be your mother. Look at me. You know how I know that? Because I'm smart. And because statistically, there is more than a 50% probability in this country that you won't remember what she looks like unless you see her occasionally at your children's weddings. So that this lady is somebody that you don't tell to go bleep yourself. And I don't care what kind of trouble Missy Moo Moo over here tries to make. Your mother helped you for 7 years. Now, I'm going to tell you, sir, that I believe you only about one thing. I believe you that there was never an agreement with your mother to pay rent. See that? I'm a reasonable gal. I know what's right and I know what's true. She's angry and she's hurt because probably at this point she has you. You're her only son. You have 2 children. She hasn't seen her grandchildren. That's a very painful thing for her. So, listen, Missy Moo Moo over here is shaking her head yes. I'm talking to you, not her. The one that you're not going to remember 20 years from now?
I don't remember.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about your mother who's taken care of you, changed your pants, took care of you when you were sick, took care of you when you had a fever, brought you up, fed you, clothed you, educated you, took care of you for a very long time. This isn't somebody you cut off from her grandchildren. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Just remember what I said when I told you to look left. Now, did you or your wife cause any damage to this house when you left?
One thing.
What?
I was gone to move a bed, and when I come back, we seen smoke coming out of the bathroom window, so I went down there. Maybe she left a... They never determined what it was. I think maybe a candle, maybe it's...
You mean your wife?
Yes, ma'am. And the wind blew the curtain, and the curtain caught on fire, and I put it out. I feel like it could have been fixed with some paint.
Okay. So you would agree, Mr. Patterson, would you not, that this accident that you say was caused by your wife negligently leaving a candle burning in the bathroom is your responsibility to fix?
Yes, ma'am. But I don't...
There you go.
I don't think it was as bad as it was said.
All I'm going to do is look at her bills to fix it. That's all.
The bills were fixed by an ex-husband.
I don't care who they were fixed by. I don't care if they were fixed by Howdy Doody. I want to see a paid bill to have it fixed because that is minimally your responsibility. You would agree with that?
Yeah, but not as bad as it says. They say it is.
Can I please see the bill to fix the bathroom that was damaged as a result of his wife leaving a candle burning and a wind blowing through the window and catching on fire the curtains, which caused damage that might have been fixed by just some paint?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Grogan says her son, Patrick Patterson, and his wife, Selena Patterson, owe for unpaid rent and for damage to her home. Beverly says Patrick and his wife burned down the bathroom.
Where are you living now?
In a mobile home.
Who rented it to you?
I bought it.
How much money did you put down on it?
$500.
How much do you make in mortgage payments?
$500 a month.
Let us assume that for the past 5 years, not 7, 5, because that's how many years you lived in your mother's house with Missy over here, that you paid your mother what you're paying on a mortgage. That's $500 a month. $500 a month times 12 times 5 years is $30,000. That's how much you saved by living in your mother's house. $30,000. Now, if you didn't put that away, that's your problem. But you don't move out of the house and leave it like a pigsty, which is what you did.
We couldn't clean it up. Every time we went over, we get cussed out.
It shouldn't have gotten to that point. These photographs that I'm seeing didn't happen in one day. They happened over a very long period of time.
She always told me that that was my place. I even told the preacher that that was my place. It belonged to me.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,580. Just remember what I said to you, sir. Look over there. You won't remember that face unless one of your kids looks like her in 20 years. Do you understand? This is always going to be your mother. You're making a big mistake, and you're being very unfair to your children. You're being very unfair to your children if you don't allow your children to have a relationship with your mother when she's had a relationship with them over the last...
I have no problem with her having a relationship with me.
Great.
He has refused. I have called him and called him and called him and asked him to bring the children over.
So he says he has no problem. So you're going to bring your children over on Sunday morning?
Yes, ma'am.
What time do you want him to bring the children over?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock for a visit?
Yes, ma'am.
For an hour. Great.
Yes,
Every Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Done. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When he put his hands on me and he threw me down to the ground, I knew then that, you know, we need at some point it had to stop.
What can you say? I mean, you know, you have to go by what she says, but don't agree with everything.
I was hoping he would learn from it. I love him and I love Selena.
He's not there anymore. He's making a family with me and his 2 kids. That's a problem with her, which is fine. We'll see where he is in 20 years.
And the control problem is not with me, it's with his wife.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stewart versus Stubbs. Step forward.
Parts manager Randy Stewart is suing 28-year-old travel coordinator Sonia Stubbs for damage to his home caused by a golf ball. Sonia says Randy was taking a chance by owning a home on a golf course.
Mr. Stewart, you own a home that's situated on a golf course. Is that right?
That's right.
Where is that, sir?
North Carolina.
Is it a nice golf course?
It's an average golf course.
And is it a nice house?
It's an average house.
And Mrs. Stubbs was playing golf on the golf course.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was playing a very average game.
Yes, ma'am.
On the average course, where your average house overlooks what fairway?
17.
And Miss Stubbs took a shot, and the golf ball hit your house.
Correct.
You claim causing some damage to the house.
Yes.
And Miss Stubbs says when you buy a house situated on a golf course, you have to expect that every once in a while your house is going to get hit with a golf ball. Sort of like you assume the risk when you buy a house on a golf course that golf balls don't always hit their mark, and it's possible that your house is going to be damaged. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
I just like to go through the simplistic part of the case because it seemed to me from reading complaint and the answer that there wasn't much of a dispute with regard to certain facts. She hit the ball, she heard it hit something, you found the siding damaged.
Correct. Immediately after the ball hit the house.
Okay. Now, when I read this, Miss Stubbs, I was trying to think of an analogy for you.
Okay.
Let's say you purchase a house near an airport. You know those planes come in and out, and some big planes and some little planes. Right? And lo and behold, one day you come home and you find that this nice little 3-bedroom ranch that you left in the morning when you went to work is no longer there. Because right smack in the middle of the living room is a little twin-engine plane that missed its mark. And you say, well, I'm going to sue the owner of that plane. He walked away scot-free. I have no house. The owner of the plane says to you, listen, you buy a house near an airport. Planes come in and out. And you have to expect every once in a while there's going to be an accident because not every plane's going to hit its mark. May not happen all the time. A couple of times a year. Once every 2 years. And when it does, you have assumed the risk. So, Miss Stubbs, When you buy a house on a golf course, what you're doing is saying, I like to play golf, I like to look at golf. People who play golf, who are good golfers, usually hit their mark. Their mark is not the side of my house. The mark is either the green, the fairway, the rough, whatever, but it's not the side of my house. So just like the twin-engine prop that hit the middle of somebody's living room, of your living room, the owner of that plane would be responsible for the damage to your house. You are responsible for the damage to Mr. Stewart's house in the amount of $385, which is your estimate. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The ball hit the house, and in less than a minute, I was out of the house and to the tee box.
I hit a tee shot and it went left. We heard a noise, didn't know where the ball hit.
There was no one else around except Sonia and her playing partners.
The ball he had was not mine.
Right here.
He's got homeowner's insurance or some type of insurance that should pay for it.
I want to thank Judge Judy for reaching the correct conclusion, and hopefully people can take responsibility for their actions.
Business owner Catherine Williams and her husband Marcus are suing dog groomer Don Loeb Jr. for vet bills and lost wages. Catherine says her miniature schnauzer was mistreated while in Don's care.
Yes, this is case number 323 on the calendar in the matter of Williams versus Grooming Dales. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Mrs. Williams, you took your dog into the defendant's grooming establishment, and it is your claim that he abused you, he abused your dog, you had to take the dog someplace else to be finished, and you're suing him for several $100s. Miss Williams, what kind of a dog do you have?
A miniature schnauzer.
How long have you had the dog?
She's probably about a year and a half old.
How many times have you had her groomed?
I had always groomed her myself. This was the first time she's ever been done professionally.
Okay, and why did you decide to have her done professionally this time?
She had been bitten by a brown recluse, and we...
What's a brown recluse?
A spider. She had a spider bite on her neck. Okay. Once we got her all well from the spider bite, we had decided that we wanted to take her to get a special treatment, just for her pain and suffering, for her own kind of thing, to make her feel pretty for a change.
Dogs don't know when they don't look pretty.
Well, we did.
They don't know if they're not pretty.
Well, their little pink bows and their polished nails.
They don't care about polished nails. Anyway, where do you live?
In Spring Hill, Tennessee.
So how did you find Mr. Loeb's grooming salon?
I had gotten a paper in the mail.
Okay, from one of these freebies that you get in the mail.
Yes.
Good. You called him and said you wanted to bring the dog in immediately.
Well, I told him that I saw his paper, and I explained to him that I would only be down in Columbia for a short period of time. Would it be possible to get her in and out of the time that I wanted?
So he said, fine, bring the dog in?
Well, first he told me that it wasn't possible for the hours that I needed to get done. Told him, okay, thanks for the call. He had a cute article in the paper, and I wished him well with his business. After that, he was like, well, let me think about this and see how we can do it. I can probably even schedule you an appointment so he could get the business. So I was grateful for the opportunity. He was willing to work with me, so I was certainly willing to take the dog for the drive.
So you had a 3-hour window, according to what I read in your paper?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you say to Mr. Loeb when you got there?
I told him that we would be back at about 12:30 to pick her up. He took down my phone number, and when we left, he called my cell phone to confirm that this was the dog that he had to have out within the 3 hours. Told him that, yes, that was her. He said, great, he'd see me about 12:30. So when I came back at actually about 12:45, I just asked him if the dog was ready. He was outside having ice cream, so I assumed that she was ready. And he said no, that he had washed the dogs in the morning, and they were still drying. And I told him, I said, you are aware of the time? And he said, can you give me another 20 minutes? I said, sure, I can do another 20 minutes, but understand that's cutting it very close. So he said, okay, fine. I left for about 20 minutes, and I came back, and he came out behind the partition and asked me, how did I want her cut? So she was a miniature schnauzer we had discussed in the morning. I wanted a miniature schnauzer cut. And I told him, I said, you are aware that we are already behind and that I don't have much time left, and when it comes time that I have to go, I have to go. He said he's aware of that. He's doing the best that he could do. He was behind the partition. I could hear him back there. I mean, he was being very rude to my dog.
How was he being rude to your dog?
He was, the way he was, it was like, stop it, stop it. And whenever I got there in the morning, I explained, he asked me what kind of a temperament she had. I told him that I had always groomed her, and I put a muzzle on her myself, that I would recommend and suggest that he do the same thing. When I got there, he told me that my dog did not behave. And I asked him, I said, what dog do you know that hops up on the table and says, please give me a haircut? I mean, I expected her to not have a good time with the clippers against her.
Miss Williams, I thought you told me a moment ago that you were taking this dog in as a special treat for her.
Yes.
Because she had a spider bite, so you wanted to give her a special treat.
Right.
Well, dogs used to having you groom her, so you take her to a stranger, and you just said to me, what dog do you know that likes to have a clippers taken to? So this wasn't a special treat for the dog, this was a special treat for you.
I guess. So you just see her look pretty.
Well, I'm just telling you, it's a special treat for you. Okay, so let's move on. So when he's talking rudely to the dog, go ahead.
Well, he was obviously irritated with me outside when I asked him, since he was outside eating ice cream, I assumed my dog was done. That's when the obvious irritation with him started. When we were inside, I would tell him, you know, this is how long it's been, how much longer is it going to be? A few more minutes, a few more minutes.
Is that the way you was talking to him? You said, how much longer is it going to be, just that way?
Yes, I was not, at this point, I wasn't rude
and he
or
said,
upset.
And he said just a few more minutes?
Yes.
Just a few more minutes. Okay, so?
So I waited a few more minutes and it still wasn't done.
Okay.
And then when it came down to that very last moment where I knew that even if I caught a long red light, I was going to be late. So I just told him, I said, whether she's done or not, I have to take her with me now.
Okay.
So he put her down and he gave her to me, and she was a mess. I mean, she just looked like she had not had a bath. She had puffs of hair on her where there was not other puffs of hair. She was just a mess.
Okay, she wasn't finished. So
Yes.
what's next?
I offered to pay half the bill. I mean, he did half the work. And he said, no, just take your dog and get out of here. And don't ever come back.
Okay.
I mean, he was very rude to me.
Okay, so he told you to take your dog and go and don't come back.
Right. As we were leaving out of the store with the dog, he came running out behind us, hollering obscenities behind us. I took the dog, went straight to my car to lock the door because I did not feel safe. I mean, for him to chase me out of the store. When we got in the car, I realized that my dog's eye was swollen. And then when I got home, both of them were swollen shut. So I called my husband and I explained to him the incident that happened at the store, the fact that the dog was hurt, and we had decided that she had to go to the vet. He called himself to talk to the groomer to find out what happened.
Well, what conversation did you have with him, Mr. Williams?
Well, I called him and I tried to talk to him. I said, hey, what's going on? What happened with the dog? Well, this guy here, he was really rude. He was loud. He was yelling at me on the phone, and I called to inquire about the services that he had done for the dog.
What were you calling to inquire about?
To find out what happened, why she didn't get groomed, why my wife was upset.
Just a second. What does he care why your wife is upset? I don't understand why you called him. Now, if you said to me, I called him because the dog's eyes were shut and I didn't know what happened, if that's the first thing you said to me, Mr. Williams, then I would say, well, that's legitimate. If you take a dog in, and even if it's not groomed the way you like it, and you take the dog half groomed and you leave, so he didn't charge you. He just said, take the dog. You're nutty. I don't want to deal with you or your dog anymore. There's no reason to call him. But if you're calling to inquire as to the eyes, that would have been the first thing you told me.
Right.
But that wasn't the first
It
thing you
wasn't.
told me.
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Well, she was upset. She called me.
Who cares if she's upset? He doesn't care if your wife's upset. Only you care.
Right. So I wanted to figure out what had happened to make her upset and what happened with the dog.
Who cares?
She said that she was in pain, that she was not feeling well, that it didn't go well. She had a bad experience.
Who, she or the dog?
My wife did. Not the dog.
Listen to me. Get over it. How old are you?
30.
Get over it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Catherine Williams and her husband Marcus claim dog groomer Don Loeb Jr. abused their miniature schnauzer. Don says Catherine was a nightmare customer.
Okay. Have a vet bill for me to look at and a diagnosis of the eyes?
I do.
Jeez.
I have pictures of the dog as well.
Did you put some sort of cream in the dog's eyes for grooming?
No, ma'am.
What did you use to wash the dog?
We use a cream rinse shampoo, conditioner. The head area is washed with a baby shampoo. It's a tearless, non-toxic shampoo.
Well, evidently this dog did not react well to your tearless shampoo.
I don't know what happened after she left the facility. I don't know whether she was mad at me, got in the car, slapped the dog across the head.
No, Mr. Loeb, listen to me very carefully, sir. That's not what happened. How much after you took the dog out of the grooming salon, Miss Williams, did you take the dog to the vet?
I got her in that day. It was the first opening they had was like 4:45.
Okay, let me tell you, before we get on with this, I'm not interested if Mrs. Williams didn't have a good experience at your grooming salon.
Yes, ma'am.
And if her husband is interested in whether or not she was upset and wasn't feeling well, that's his problem. My problem is with the dog. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You're a big girl. You're 30 years old. You had a bad experience with a merchant? You don't go back there.
Right. I would have understood that if my dog hadn't been hurt. I would have just never gone back. It would have not been an issue any further.
Well, but my problem is your husband. When your husband called him, your husband didn't call him and say to him, "You hurt my dog."
Well, I did.
No, the first thing
I told you that, but I did talk to him about that.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Okay.
Stop poking him. He can speak for himself. Move over. Put your hand down. The first thing you said you discussed with him was your wife's emotional state.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that's not his business.
Right. But we did discuss the dog because I picked her out when she was a baby. That's my baby there. That was the first dog I ever
Then that
had.
would have been the first thing I would have talked about, not my wife not
when
being
she called me
happy.
to see what's up, I had to see both sides of the story. I just can't sit and take her side. I want to know what happened. So when I called him to see what happened, he gave me his side of the story. And after he hung up with me, he called me back to complain to my manager for me calling and complaining about the services that were done on my dog. I thought that was ridiculous. If I get a hamburger at Wendy's, it's not done right, and I go back and complain, they don't call me back and say, well, we're complaining because your hamburger was wrong. I mean, you don't do that.
Mr. Williams, explain something to you, sir. Your wife called you very upset, which made you upset. So you called him upset. He says, well, I don't have to deal with this. I dealt with this lady. She wanted fast service. I gave her fast service, fast lousy service, Mr. Logue, but fast service. I didn't charge her for taking care of her dog. I didn't take such good care of her dog, which is a good reason not to charge her for taking care of the dog. You got the wrong groomer. There's no reason to call him. None. Just make yourself feel better. In any event, you did a bad job, Mr. Logue. I'm a pet lover.
Me too.
And I've been to good groomers, and I've been to groomers that take shears and cut a little too close in very sensitive places, which is what the vet said happened here. I've seen what that can do to a dog. The dog clearly had an adverse reaction to whatever shampoo you were using. Miss Williams, the dog wasn't going to react well to a groomer because she had been used to being groomed by you. That doesn't mean Mr. Logue did a good job. He did not. He was not careful enough with this dog. I'll hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this vet doesn't have any axe to grind, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Ma'am, I groom dozens of miniature schnauzers.
So?
The underside of the dog, around the abdomen area, is shaved the same way every time. I didn't see any clipper burn on the dog at all. There was no
The
clipper
vet
burn
did.
when he left it.
Let me tell you
when he left.
something, sir. I credit what the vet says in the vet's report. The vet says that both eyes were inflamed, excessive tearing. It says no ulcerations were found in the corneas. So this is clearly just an irritation from whatever you used on the dog, whatever shampoo that you used. Maybe the dog was allergic to the shampoo that you used. That's possible, but that happened. There was also a clipper burn present around her vulva.
Yes, ma'am.
That comes from you.
I don't know whether Miss Williams took her home. She said she's groomed this dog before. I don't know whether she took the
Mr. Lowe,
clippers to him or what.
didn't happen. Didn't happen. It happened at your establishment. She didn't take the dog home and look at the dog that's eyes are closed shut, clearly in distress, and decide to shave her. That doesn't make common sense. The only thing Miss Williams has is tends to go on a little bit, you know, tends to be a little verbal, but she's not crazy. You are responsible for her vet bills. Not necessarily to re-groom the dog. I assume you're going to be smart and continue to groom the dog yourself from now on, because at 1.5 years old, it's very hard to retrain a dog to go to a groomer. Should have done that when the dog was a puppy. Then what?
The dog was very uncooperative.
Of course.
It was very hard to groom, and she stood outside in my foyer with her 5-year-old kicking my wall, and the dog went even more nuts. I tried to get this dog groomed.
Then what you should have done, sir, is taken the dog and said, I can't groom your dog.
When she called me a D word, and I don't mean Dallas, I gave her the dog.
Oh, I believe that she cursed at you. You did, right?
I did.
She brought a friend with her.
I mean, I know you did, because that sounds really sweet, but I know that you cursed at him.
I did. After I became irritated, I did.
Well, did he curse at you first?
No, he didn't use a curse word.
No.
He was rude to me first.
He was rude to you. He was rude to your dog. Get over it. You're 30 years old.
I understand
But you
that.
cursed at him because you were very fast to tell me that he came out after you, cursing at you.
Yes.
Right? But you didn't tell me I cursed at him.
I did say one curse word.
What?
Ma'am, it's 5 years as a police officer. I don't chase people outdoors attempting to assault people. I'm a former
I can
officer.
imagine she irritated you, sir. You have to take care of her vet bills. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $70. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She had a 5-year-old child with her, and the child was kicking the walls, disturbing the dog.
My 3-year-old was playing in the lobby while we were waiting longer than we were supposed to get my dog back.
It was just a wild situation.
I think that it was an unfortunate situation.
I don't know what she did with the dog or to the dog or how much time went by after she left my facility.
I did not hurt my dog myself. My dog left his shot hurt.
That dog was fine when that dog left my facility.
He just didn't handle it the right way.
If I see her face coming toward my door again, I'm going to lock it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Power versus Power. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Mary Power is suing her daughter, administrative assistant Catherine Power, for the cost of a cruise from New York to Canada.
Ms. Power, this is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And I gather from reading your petition that at this point in your lives you're not happy with each other.
No, we're not.
So this is what the case is about. Your family was planning to go away on a cruise together, so I assume you all got along. You have children?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And they were going on the cruise also?
Yes.
How many of your brothers and sisters were going?
2. 2 sisters.
And Mrs. Power, what you tell me in your petition is that your daughter paid for the cruise, and then the cruise company went bankrupt.
Correct.
And everybody was really disappointed, and according to what you tell me, I read, you made arrangements for a second cruise.
Correct.
And since the refund hadn't come back yet, you paid for the second cruise.
Correct.
And your daughter didn't pay you back when she got the refund.
Correct.
She says that the second cruise was a gift.
Absolutely not.
That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes.
When were you planning to go on this cruise, Miss Power?
The first cruise on Regal Cruises, we were going June 29th of 2003.
And where were you going?
We were going from New York to Canada.
Kathy, how much did you pay for that cruise for you and your 2 children? Was it 3 people going?
I paid $906, but that wasn't a full total.
When did you pay that money?
Throughout January to May of 2003.
Great. When were you advised, Miss Power, that the cruise was canceled?
I was advised in May of 2003.
And did you rebook another cruise?
Yes, I did.
For the same period of time?
For the same period of time. Just one day earlier, we were going to leave than previously planned.
And was that a more expensive cruise?
A few $100s more.
So what happened? You went on the cruise in June?
We went on the cruise. We had a great time. I got a refund back in February of 2004.
Did you call your daughter and ask her if she had gotten a refund back?
Yes, I was very excited I got my refund, but she didn't seem to be as excited. And she just called me up a few days later, and she said to me, now she didn't say she got her check back. She said that when she gets her check back, she'd like to use it to go to Florida on another vacation. And I said, absolutely no. I want my money back.
And she said?
And she said that no, she wasn't giving it back to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Her daughter, Catherine Power, owes for a cruise from New York to Canada. Catherine says she's a struggling single mom, and the cruise was a gift.
Give me your version of the events that led to your belief that this was a gift to you.
The first cruise that we had purchased, actually my mom called me and said, would you like to go on a cruise, and I'll help pay for it. And then she ended up paying for my sister Karen's part, but didn't help me. So I was still paying for it because I wanted to go. So I just went on about my time and got a phone call when I was at work, and she said, I purchased a new cruise. So I was like, well, Mom, I don't have money. And nothing came up about the refund check. I don't have the money to pay for it. She goes, don't worry, it's a gift. So that's how I took it as.
Kathy,
what?
Your mother never said to you, don't worry, it's a gift.
She said, don't worry.
I know that she didn't say, don't worry, it's a gift. And you know she didn't say, don't worry, it's a gift. Right?
Right, but she did say, don't worry. She didn't say it was a gift, but she said not to worry.
Right. She didn't say it was a gift. How did I know that?
Because people don't say that.
Sure.
They just...
Because if it doesn't sound right, it's not true.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened, Miss Power, when you got back your refund from the cruise line in February.
She said she paid for the cruise and that I was supposed to pay her back. And that was not my point of it. It was...
Well, was your point of it? Was your point of it that...
She bought a trip for the family. It was the last family trip. She felt that everyone should go on it because my father was sick
and she wanted us all together. That's what it was.
Then, Kathy, would you explain to me, if that's your rationalization for keeping the money, why is it that you testified earlier that from February until May, you were paying the travel agent, and you paid the travel agent $906 if your mother had already said to you, I want to take the family away on a trip? Now, what I think happened that really annoyed you is that your mother, according to you, chose to pay for one of your sisters to go and didn't choose to pay for you. Because you've already mentioned that once, and that, I would say, might fry you a little bit. But let me understand why your mother decided to pay for one sister and not you. You want to explain that to me?
Yes. When my daughter, Kathy, had my grandson, she had to take some leave off from work. She was on maternity leave. And during that time, my husband, Bill, and I helped her with her rent and her car payments to keep her going. And I did ask her at that time to pay me back, but she did not.
Okay, just a second. So, did your parents help you?
They came up to the house when I had Liam and watched Emerald, my daughter, and then she helped me with diapers and stuff.
$1,306 is what you intended to pay. Is that right?
Correct.
Mrs. Powell, even if you decided to go on a little bit more expensive cruise, I assume you would be perfectly happy if you got $1,306 back from your daughter. If she said to you, listen, I don't have the extra money, but here's the $1,306 that I was intending to pay for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give that back to you.
I would have been happy.
And that would have been right, Kathy.
No.
That would have been right, Kathy.
Nope.
Listen to me. You have to stop relying on other people to take care of the problems that you create. You create certain problems. You created a lifestyle for yourself. And it seems to me from listening to your mother, who's a pretty rational lady, that you have relied on other people to take care of the problems that you create. And when you listen to me, and when you turn 30, you just told me that. You just told me a moment ago that your parents came to watch your daughter when your son was born.
Correct.
And gave you a little bit of money, a little bit of help. Well, that means relying on other people for problems that you create.
They didn't have to come.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. Did you ever hear the expression, beauty fades, dumb is forever? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all I'm going to say. You owe your mother $1,306. That is the cost of the trip that you had originally said that you were going to take care of. You got a refund for most of it. You should have turned that refund over to your mother by signing over the check to her and saying, thanks for covering the balance. She would have been ecstatic that you did the right thing. You chose to do the wrong thing. And you can't, at your age, do the wrong thing. First of all, it sets a bad example for your children, and that's primarily why you can't do the wrong thing. Because you're supposed to set a perfect example for your children, and then you're not supposed to make your mother come and sue you. Don't say anything. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,306. That's all. Step out.
How does that excuse you? Let's step out.
I'm very happy with the decision. The only thing is I just feel bad that Kathy and I have no relationship right now. And I'm just hoping that she's going to let me see the kids. That's my grandkids.
My sister might, because she has my nephew, so that will be important. But if I have I have control over my kids. They won't see my mother.
It was very hard, but I needed to get the money back.
She's controlling, and she's been controlling from all of us. I mean, her sons don't even talk to her, so...
She has to be responsible for her actions.
It was a gift. That's what it'll always be, a gift.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Isbell versus Espinoza. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Holly Isbell is suing her former friend, 25-year-old nurse's assistant Michelle Espinoza, for unpaid babysitting fees and miscellaneous expenses. Holly says she cared for Michelle's kids while she was in the hospital.
Ms. Isbell, according to your complaint, the defendant was hospitalized.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were contacted to see if you could fill in while she was hospitalized, which was on an emergency basis, to watch her 5 children?
Yes, ma'am.
You agreed to watch her children, and you want to be reimbursed for babysitting services as well as miscellaneous expenses for the children while they were in your care.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Espinoza says the two of you were friends. You used to watch each other's children all the time. You filled in for each other. There was never an agreement to pay you for babysitting services, and she doesn't owe you anything. In addition to the babysitting services, it is your claim that the defendant also has embarked on various acts of harassment, and you want to be compensated for that. How long have the two of you been friends?
Probably for about a year and a half, almost to 2 years.
And you have children?
Yes, I do. I have 3.
How old are your children?
Mine are 12, 6, and 4.
And how old are Miss Espinosa's children?
6, 3, almost 2. She has 2 twins. And then the baby is almost 8 months.
And were there times when the two of you exchanged babysitting services?
I remember one time that she's watched my children, yes.
And was there any payment?
No, there wasn't.
Any other times that you watched her children?
There was payment, yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you go into the hospital?
On the 21st of April.
For what?
For kidney stones.
When did you receive a call, Miss Isbell, that there was need for your service?
I received a call from one of her friends on March 21st. She said that Michelle told her to call me because she needed somebody to watch the kids for a couple of days, that she was going to go in the hospital. And I called the hospital, and they said that she had already been admitted. So they gave me her room number, and she was in pain. She said that they were already giving her pain medicine, and that her fever was really high, and that they didn't know what was really wrong with her at the time, and that it was only going to be for a couple of days. I agreed to watch them for a couple of days.
Fine.
And in that agreement, I said the same arrangement goes as prior. And
No, Miss Isbell, I don't think you said that to her. I think you're a nice lady, and I think that if somebody is saying to you, I'm in the hospital and I have a very high fever and I'm in a lot of pain, I don't think that a nice lady like you would say, well, I'll take care of the children for a couple of days, but you know it's going to be on the same payment arrangement that we had before. I don't think you would say that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
So the children were dropped off at your house, and then what happened?
They were dropped off, and what was brought in was a gallon of milk and a few diapers, and about a half of baby formula, about this big. And then when I called her at the hospital, because I didn't know how to reach her boyfriend, I said, look, you know, the kids are running out of diapers again.
When did you call her?
The very next day. And she said that she was fixing to have tests, and that she would get a hold of her boyfriend, and that she would bring all the stuff that was needed. Well,
Not she.
Not she, but the boyfriend. Well, he brought over a bag of potato chips, about 7 cans of Cokes, and that was it.
Did you give her any money for the 4 days that she watched the children? Just not for payment, but for the food that they ate. You know, if it cost her an extra $150 for the 4 days,
When
the children are with you. Let me finish. If it cost her an extra $150, don't you think that it was your responsibility, your boyfriend's responsibility, to see to it that she had what she needed for the children?
When I offered her for money or to bring groceries over there, because I can't just give her my food stamp card because I'd get in trouble.
I'm not asking you to give her your food stamp card. Your boyfriend works. I assume that he works for money, not food stamps. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much money did he give her?
None that I know of.
Right. Well, that's not fair.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I'm the one that packed everything for her kids.
Well, then come up and tell me what you packed.
All
Tell me
right.
your name.
And I called her in the beginning.
Tell me your name.
Jessica Flores.
All right, Miss Flores, what did you bring over for the children?
I packed 4 changes of clothes, 3 sleeping clothes.
I'm not talking about clothes.
Okay.
Let's not talk about clothes.
I
She
gave
didn't
her
buy any clothes.
24 diapers for the
24
babies.
diapers?
For the baby. And the twins are in diapers. I gave her 50 for the twins.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did the milk, Michelle had the big count of my ounces, but it's not the 12 ounce. It's like a 32 ounce, and it was brand new. It wasn't even opened. I put that in with the Pampers and a gallon of milk because Michelle told me that's all she wanted.
Is that what she brought over to you?
No, ma'am.
What
It
did
was
she bring
not.
over?
She brought over, now the can size is right, but it was half full. And she did not pack 50 diapers for the twins. It was more like 12.
Do you have a receipt for items that you bought for the children during that
I
time?
do not, because I only paid once to buy just a really cheap pack of diapers for the twins.
So how much did you pay?
Food was $169.41 because I had to replace everything, you know, because they ate a lot.
Okay,
They didn't get to go to
$169.41 for 4 days for 5 children. What else?
She would call and she would leave messages on my phone, and I have one tape.
I'd like to hear it.
Holly, I don't appreciate you going to a missionary or compassion or whatever and using my name to get my children diapers, and when you tell me you paid for them, what kind of Christian person are you? Now, I'm sick of you trying to run around this town and ruin my name or giving me bad trouble. You keep on and you will have trouble yourself, Holly. Now, I'm just a little bit sick and tired of this.
All right, so she's telling you she's angry because you've been saying bad things about her. Go ahead.
But
it's not harassment.
Well, this was because 2 days after, DHS was knocking on my door. And there's another case involving me and my daughter that she knows about. It involves a sexual act that happened to someone, and she knew about it. And
so you think that she called Children's
yes,
Services to report on you?
I really believe that.
Okay, she may have, but you can't prove it. So far, I think that she has to reimburse you for your expenses with regard to taking care of her children, because I think that that's the right thing to do. And I think that there was probably an implied agreement to take care of your children's necessaries. Now, how much do you think is appropriate to reimburse Miss Isbell for the service that she provided in watching your children for 4 days?
I don't know what she purchased on my children. She went to the Compassion Outreach for diapers that she said she purchased herself.
No, she's not asking for diapers. She's not asking for diapers at all. She spent $169.41. That's what she says she spent.
If she
for the
spent
children.
that, why didn't she ask me for groceries when I asked her to go get them?
Oh, I want you to turn around and look at her. Turn around and look at her. Miss Espinoza, I want you to say the following words. Thank you for taking care of my children when I couldn't and my boyfriend couldn't.
Thank you for taking care of my children when I couldn't and my boyfriend couldn't.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $169.41. Thank you.
All right, Judge, please step out.
Her boyfriend is very abusive to her.
She has so much hate and anger against my boyfriend. That's what it is.
Got a problem. She's the one who told me, and she showed me bruises before.
We're no longer friends, that's for sure.
I didn't call it on her. I called on her boyfriend.
Probably because he's Mexican. I don't know.
I have nothing against him. I have nothing against her. You know, when you get hurt, no man has a right to whoop up on a woman.
Bill collector Carol Pratt is suing her former live-in boyfriend, staffing agent James Moulton, for unpaid rent, a broken video camera, and the return of a snake.
Yeah, this is case number 308 on the calendar, the matter of Pratt versus Moulton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Pratt, how many kids do you have?
Total of 3.
How many live with you?
2.
How old are they?
14 and 9.
This is the 14-year-old?
Yes, ma'am.
What's his name?
Michael Edward.
And how old is the third child?
9. Oh, the oldest one is 21.
So she's out of the home? He's out of the home?
He is.
How long did you know Mr. Moulton before he moved in with you and your 2 children?
About a month.
And why did he move in with you?
He wasn't able to pay his rent, and we wanted to join finances so we can both afford to live in my house that I own.
When he came to live with you, did he come to live with you as a boyfriend?
At first, yes.
What do you mean at first? So were you sharing a room with him?
Yes.
So you knew him 1 month before he moved in?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
2.
Who did they live with?
Us.
So you moved in together, blended your families after knowing each other for a month. You now have 4 children living in the house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And the 2 of you. And when was it that he moved in?
About a month after we met each
Give me
other.
the month.
That would have been in November.
Of 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did he stay in your home?
Until the end of February of 2004.
And at that point you say he left owing you rent?
Yes, ma'am.
That he took some property that didn't belong to him when
Yes,
he
ma'am.
left? And he also took your son's snake and mice, and you want them back?
Yes.
And broke camera?
Yes.
Whole bunch of stuff. Okay. He left in February of 2004?
Yes.
Tell me why he moved out in February.
We weren't getting along.
Just that. You just weren't getting along. There were no major battles in February.
Yes, there were. There was a lot of battles.
Well, what happened in February, sir?
Well, yeah, it was prior to that. It was more like after Christmas. I received custody of my children from domestic violence. When I brought them into her home, her children were very violent to her and to me and to my kids. And as a father, I cannot put my kids in that situation. That is why I left.
Okay, fine.
There was no agreement when I moved in about paying rent.
No, I didn't ask you anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not your case yet, sir. It will get there. Because, Mr. Moulton, you're not going to tell me that a man who has custody of his 2 children moves in with a lady who has custody of her 2 children and expects somebody else to take care of him and his responsibility. Now, I don't want you to even answer that question, sir, until you think about it a minute.
I don't need to think about it. The answer is absolutely not.
Good. So I just want to make sure that that was not your agreement. I don't speak of an opportunity. Now, so he left in February. Now, he moved in November.
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to his moving in, did you have an agreement with regard to the household expenses?
He told me that he would pay half of everything, and that he would never treat me the way my exes treated me, and that he would be responsible and take care of his obligations.
Good. So he made some sort of general statement that he would take care of his obligations. So how much money did he contribute to the household in November?
He only helped with food.
When you say he helped with food, what do you mean he helped with
He paid for half of it, and I paid for half of it.
Okay. And did you have a discussion with him in November that this wasn't what you had agreed to?
More or less in December. He did originally have a job when he started. The first week he lost his car because it broke down, then he lost his job because of it. I even gave him my car, and he would drop us off at daycare and work, and he would try to look for a job, but he didn't have money for gas, so I had to put all the gas in the car also, besides paying for the insurance and for the $315 that I pay monthly on my
Okay, just a second. So he lost his job. You lost your job, is that right?
I was laid off prior to moving in.
When did you get a job?
January, I believe it was, delivering flowers, and I was using my car because I had bought a car.
When did you buy a car?
In January.
With what?
I received unemployment and child support from my wife, which is what I paid for it.
How much money did you receive in child support?
I received $300 a month from my 2 children.
And how much did you receive from unemployment?
$125 a week.
So about $800 a month.
That's correct.
And you were receiving $800 a month starting in November.
Absolutely.
And how much did you spend on your living?
I contributed most of my money to her in the household.
How much each month?
I probably kept $50 a week for myself and bought a case of diapers for my daughter.
Yes.
And I paid for all the food.
How did you then buy the car?
Money from my wife. Other money. I had this money. I saved some money. I had money before I moved in with her.
How much money did you have?
The car was $99 down.
How much money did you have?
A few $100.
You're talking fast, sir.
A few $100.
When he wasn't giving you money towards the mortgage and he wasn't giving you any money towards the rest of the household expenses but paying for half the food, did you have discussions with him periodically about money?
Yes, we did, and he kept telling me that to leave it go, that he would take care of it, just quit bringing it up, but he knows he owes it.
Okay. Now, when he left in February, what kind of a discussion did you have with him about the expenses and the money he owed you?
He agreed on $500 a month, and I told him, what about the phone bill, because he was calling his ex-wife on long-distance charges that I wasn't supposed to pay for.
Just a second. So he agreed to give you $500 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
For the 3 months that he lived there?
$500 a month, yes.
But he did not give you the $500
No, he did
a month.
not.
And this is after he already moved out?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that sound familiar, Mr. Moulton?
No, ma'am. I had no agreement with her. When I told her I was leaving because I did not want my children in the violent atmosphere
I understand that.
longer,
She says that after you left, you had a discussion with her because she racked up large phone bills talking to your ex-wife and a lot of other expenses. And she says you agreed to give her $500 a month for the time that you were there with your children and that you would pay for it out of your tax returns, but then you didn't get your tax returns right away.
It's not true. I agreed. I told her I paid her what I paid her, and that was it. There would be no more money given to her.
All right,
I fulfilled my obligations to her. My priority was to get my children out of that violent situation.
I heard what you said about your priority. I heard. Now, what items did he take from the house that you say didn't belong to him?
Whenever he moved in, he threw out my bike, which meant a lot to me. I had it since I was
He threw out what he moved
an
in?
antique bike.
You said when he moved in, he threw out your bike?
Yeah, when he moved in, he started going through all my stuff, throwing out everything that he thought I didn't need and I didn't use. He threw out my furniture. He threw out some of my items.
You should have thrown him out if you didn't want him to do it.
She asked me to help her organize the house.
Just a second. Do I look like I need help?
No, ma'am.
If you didn't want him to throw away these things, Miss Pratt, and he was throwing them away when he moved in. You should have thrown him out. You didn't do that. Now you don't come and sue him.
He has two small children.
Do you understand? You don't come and sue him after the fact.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Carol Pratt says former live-in boyfriend James Moulton owes for rent, a broken video camera, and the return of a snake. James says he moved out because Carol's children are violent.
Let's get to the snake, because I see we don't have anything there.
Well, after he moved out and that my son was giving me a hard time, so I grounded him from the snake for a week, and I asked him to hold on to the snake and to the mice and the cages, and I gave him food and the bedding for them, and I said it will be a week. When I went back to get it a week later, he told me it either died or he froze, and he gave me different excuses every time I seen him.
What happened to the snake?
She asked me to take the snake. I took the snake and the mice to my house. The snake got away out the back door. I had the mouse. It wasn't a will you watch this or will you babysit this snake until my son gets out of boot camp. It was, do you want the snake? Yes, I do. She put it in my car. I took it home. Months later, she wants the snake back. It's gone.
How long did you have it?
4 months.
You had it for 4 months.
I begged for 4 months to get it back.
Okay, next.
Well, when we were living together, he was drinking too much. That's why my son was getting upset. My children had a hard time with him because of the type of friends he was hanging out with. He was bringing...
Just tell me, I'm not interested. Listen, you want to go on, you go on Dr. Phil if you want to talk about your problems. I don't want to talk about your problems. I want you to tell me, this is a court. What does he owe you?
$1,650.
For what?
For living expenses, for the utilities, the phone bill that was over, for gas, for using my vehicle when he used it for the months that he didn't have a car.
Stop being a baby.
Your Honor.
Stop being a baby. The relationship didn't work out. He's not going to pay you for putting gas in the car. I believe that you had an agreement that he would pay for half of the expenses. Here you are living, your 2 children, his 2 children, and he can't live rent-free. He can't live utility-free. And he receives, in addition to that, he receives child support and unemployment insurance. So he receives $800 a month.
And I didn't know about the unemployment.
Well, he received, according to him, $800 a month. And if what you believe and what he agreed to pay was $500 a month, that's perfectly reasonable, leaving him $300 a month for extra expenses, and that's without a job. And certainly if you got a job in January, sir, delivering flowers, you could have gotten a job Christmas time delivering flowers too. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Excuse, you may step out.
Jealousy?
Jealousy? No.
She's jealous that I'm with another woman and won't be with her.
There's no jealousy. Sorry, Jim.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Eden versus Neely. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Desiree Eden is suing her father's girlfriend, EMT tech Susan Neely, for the return of payments on a Dodge Neon she repossessed. Susan is countersuing for the vehicle's unpaid balance and insurance payments.
Who are you?
I'm the dad.
Why don't you stand up, sir? Miss Eden, while this gentleman, who's your father, is not a defendant, I'm going to have him stand here because I think it's important. Miss Neely is your father's girlfriend. They live together, is that right?
Yes.
According to what I read, a couple of years ago, you needed a car. You were living with your father and his girlfriend. And Miss Neely agreed to buy a car. You were underage, so it was in her name. And tell me what the agreement was.
The agreement was that I paid the car payments on the car as it came. I paid the $1,000 down plus the car payments on it.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
From when to when?
From November 2003 to December or November 26th of 2004.
And you made the payments every month?
Yes.
Who paid the insurance?
I paid it when she asked for it.
The agreement was that you would make the monthly payments?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Miss Neely, is it correct that Miss Eden made the monthly payments on the car from November of 2003 to November of 2004?
Her last payment was on November the 12th.
So the answer would be yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happened in November of 2004?
Okay, the day after Thanksgiving, she decided that she was going to move out and move in with her boyfriend. And I told her she could not take the car because that car was in my name. It was titled in my name. And I would not let her have it because if something should happen and they go out and have a wreck and kill somebody, it comes back on me. So I told her she had to leave the car with me, and if she came with the balance owed against the car, then I would sign it over to her.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second.
She did not come up with the $2,201.93 that was owed against the car, so I would not allow her to have it.
Well, wasn't your agreement. Ms. Neely. That wasn't your agreement.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Eden says her father's girlfriend, Susan Neely, illegally repossessed her car. Susan says she took the car away when Desiree moved in with her boyfriend.
When did you turn 18?
May 23rd.
Of 2004?
Of 2004.
Once she turned 18 and continued to make the payments, and you continued to accept the payments, that contract that you had with her, that verbal contract, was ratified, which meant it became a contract. The contract's terms were very simple. You make the payments until the car is paid off, I'll sign the title over to you. That was your contract.
But she's no longer making payments.
She stopped making payments because you wouldn't let her take the car.
Correct.
What we're talking about is an anticipatory breach, which is you said to yourself, I'm not so sure whether she's going to continue to make the payments on the car if she's not here and living with the boyfriend, so I'm not going to let her have the car. That's what you really said.
Well, our insurance company told us that.
Hey, don't tell me what your insurance company told you. The insurance company cannot interpret a contract that you had with her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, when it was told to her when we decided to get the car for her, it was also told that she would stay in school, and it depended on her grades. That way we could also use the car. If she starts slipping a little bit, we could take the car away from her.
She hadn't slipped? Sir, she just decided to move out and move in with her boyfriend.
Exactly. But after that is when she lost her job. She quit school.
I did not.
But just a second. Just a second. Mr. Eden, at the time she left, she was making the payments.
Yes.
She was in school.
Yep.
And she had a job.
Yes.
You can't anticipate what's going to happen afterwards. Where's the car now?
It is at my house.
They have it for sale for $2,500.
Car is hers.
Okay, who pays the rest of the...
She does.
Okay. Does she pay that to us or to the car dealership or...
Are you working?
No, ma'am.
Well, how are you going to make the payments on the car?
Well, I just moved back into my mom's here recently. I have to get another job.
Where's the boyfriend?
Right here.
How come you moved out of his house?
We both moved into my mom's house. We were having too much problems in Monette where we were living with him. He had assaulted me shortly after I moved out.
Who did?
My father. I had to get a restraining order against him on December 8th. He assaulted me on December 7th.
About what?
About he was mad that I moved out and I was living with him.
Does he work?
Yes, he does.
What does he do?
He is
Don't
in
look down.
factory.
What?
Factory.
And what about you?
I'm in school, high school.
How do you do in high school?
I do really good. I have good grades.
You do really well.
I do really well. I try.
I have a report card from when she left.
We don't need you to do any negatives.
Okay, I just saw her.
Listen to me. Is he in school?
No, he's not.
How old is he?
22.
Do you have the ability to do better in school?
Yes, ma'am.
It's really dumb to hitch your wagon to a star when you're 18 years old, especially when the star isn't such a star. Unless you get an education, it's going to be a struggle your whole life. You want to struggle your whole life?
No, Your Honor.
You know what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You look like you have the potential to do okay. Unless you recognize your potential, you're going to be clawing at life your whole life. I think that taking back this car is probably going to be a terrible burden for you, financially, because you don't have the money for it now, right?
Right.
So you put in $4,000 into the car in the year that you had it, in payments that you made.
Correct.
Let's say you had to rent a car, a basic car, for the year. That would have cost you about $2,000 or $166 a month, basic. So you have the following choice. Either you assume full financial responsibility for this car, or I'm prepared to award you half of what you're requesting, which is $2,000, which might give you an opportunity of going and finding a good second-hand car that wouldn't give you any further payments. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Ms. Neely and your father can go and sell this car. If they make a profit, fine. If they don't, fine. You think that's a smarter idea for you?
Yes, I do, because I don't know
I
what
do
they've
too.
done. I'm not sure what they've done to the car since I haven't had it.
Well, I don't think they've purposely done anything. They're trying to sell it. All right. You can't anticipate a breach of a contract. You had an agreement with this young lady, and she fulfilled her end of the agreement. She used the car for a year, over a year. She understands that that's wear and tear on the car. I'm awarding her $2,000. Be smart. Buy wheels so that you can get yourself to and from school and to and from a part-time job. Do well in school. Think a little higher than what you know. You know, think a little higher, think. Can I reach my potential, and what is that?
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have any children, do you?
Oh, no.
Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you don't plan on any for a while, right?
No, ma'am.
Very smart. Make sure. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Excuse, you messed up out.
We went driving around. He got upset because we were going to get married and hit me a couple times.
No, I never assaulted my daughter.
She moved out, moved in with me, and we had trouble ever since.
He basically told her that she couldn't go around anybody and do anything. We couldn't come around her.
They like to lie, and they're vicious people, I think.
They got what they deserve. They put her through a lot of trouble when I first met her.
They're portraying to be such innocent people right now, and they've got plans to move to Illinois just as soon as they get the money to go, and I think they just got their money.
I think when he grows up and becomes a man, then he can realize what he's missed out on throughout the years.
For things to turn out like this is just something I don't know if I'll ever get over. I don't know if she'll ever get over.
And Wes Baum is suing his ex-wife, property manager Lisa Baum, for filing false charges against him. Lisa claims West violated a restraining order.
Come to order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
That's case number 463 on the calendar in the matter of Baum versus Baum. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Baum, the defendant is your former wife, and it is your claim that she filed a false charge of violating a protective order against you. You want to be compensated for being taken into custody and those false charges. And Ms. Baum said she did not, that you did, in fact, violate a protective order, and she did not accuse you of any crime. She just merely did what she was supposed to do. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When were you and the defendant married?
1984.
And when were you divorced?
1999.
And you have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
17 and 16.
When you divorced, who got custody of the children?
I did.
Was that after a trial or by agreement?
Trial.
And these are your 2 girls?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did the girls live with you?
Up till 2003.
So far, are those dates correct?
No, ma'am.
He got custody of the children in 1999?
Yes, ma'am.
And they lived with him until what year?
2002.
What month?
November.
What happened in 2002?
I received a call from him, and he said Katrina wanted to come live with me, so I went and got her. Elizabeth stayed with her dad.
So Katrina, one child came to live with you in November. That's Katrina. Did there come a time when Elizabeth went to live with her mother?
Only through while we're here. She went to do a visitation. At that point in time, her mother went to the court and filed a protective order saying that I gave her a black eye.
When was that?
August of 2002. No, 2003, I'm sorry.
And so from August of 2003 until what time, what month and year did Elizabeth stay with you?
December of 2004.
And what happened in December of 2004?
On December 1st, Katrina and I had gotten into an argument that morning, and the girls proceeded to go to school. Elizabeth went to school and decided she didn't want to be with me anymore, so she left school grounds without anybody's permission, got a ride to her dad's work, and she's been there ever since.
When did you find out that she was missing?
Like 30 minutes. I called the school because I kind of had an idea. I had called Elizabeth's cell phone.
Well, if you had an idea, then something more happened. Then you had an argument with Katrina, Miss Baum.
No, ma'am, it was just an
argument. Then why, if you had an argument with one child, why would you think that something happened to your other child?
Because Elizabeth went to the school and told them that she wanted Child Protective Services called.
Against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so well, that would give you a clue.
But it was unfound.
Just a second. But that would give you a clue that there was trouble, and that all happened on December 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. You're 17, Elizabeth?
Yes.
You live with your father.
Yes.
What house is it?
With Elizabeth at all. With my other one.
I understand that your initial problem was with your other daughter, but it was Elizabeth who spoke to the guidance counselor. It was Elizabeth who caused them to contact Child Protective Services, who ultimately contacted you and started all the trouble for you. And you reacted to that, Mrs. Baum, by going to court, and instead of letting things settle down with your two girls, going to court and making trouble for your ex-husband.
No, that's
exactly what you did. Oh, yes, that is exactly what you did. Your former husband is suing you for $2,000. He said he was arrested. How long were you taken into custody for, sir?
I was released that day. But if I may add on that?
Yeah.
Prior to that, my daughter called me about 12:30 that day. And because where they live is in a separate city, I told her to call the Virginia Beach Police Department to find out what they would have her do. And they said, come see me. So she got a ride to home, and she got a ride from home to my work. At that point, I got a couple calls on my cell phone. I'm not sure if I responded to a call, if I called her back and said, hey, she's here with me, but do not come up here and cause any trouble. After work, we'll settle this. We'll go through it and find out what's going on and get to the bottom of this. Later that night, she called her Elizabeth up. My ex called her Elizabeth up and said, I want your cell phone and your key. She came over to the house and got the cell phone and her key to the house.
Did you go to his house?
I went to the parking lot next door at like 7 o'clock at night to pick up the cell phone that's in my name and my house key.
But not your daughter?
No, she didn't.
No, why? No, because...
Your Honor, I can't pick her up and put her in the car.
Because she didn't want to go home with you.
That's right. So,
and if you, are you telling me, are you suggesting to me that this magistrate before whom you appeared to get a protective order, you told him that your daughter didn't want to go home with you, she was okay with her father, and you went and you got your cell phone because you were worried she would make telephone calls? We're worried about her. Worried that she would make telephone calls. You're absolutely right, sir. It was vicious and it was vindictive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, says his ex-wife, Lisa Baum, falsely accused him of violating a protective order. West says because of Lisa's actions, he was arrested.
Now, your motivation for going to the judge for a violation of protective order, I believe, was vicious and vindictive and had absolutely nothing to do with the safety of your child. Because your actions that day belie the fact that it had anything to do with the safety of your child, because you went there alone to get your key and your cell phone. And if you actually had fear for your child's safety, you would have called the police and said, please come with me. I have to go get my daughter. She is in danger. You didn't do that.
I did do that. We went to his employment to get her with the police.
They had me arrested.
Just a second.
No, to pick up my daughter. I didn't care what happened to him.
Just a second. And what happened when you went there?
They weren't there. Your Honor, I didn't get any help from the police.
You didn't need any help getting the key and the cell phone, only your daughter. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $2,000. That's all.
Sorry, you got excused. You may step out.
Now I married a beautiful wife, and she has a problem with it.
I left messages with him, call me, let's work this out, and I don't get any reply. I think he's afraid of what his wife will say.
She didn't want me, and she didn't want nobody else to have me.
No, that's not true.
It's the first time that I've gotten justice in the court system for a long time. I feel good.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McLeish versus Kramer. Step forward.
21-year-old department store manager Ashley McLeish is suing her former friend, retail salesperson Angela Kramer, for her share of a trip to Las Vegas. Angela claims Ashley and her witness coerced her into going.
How old are you, Miss McLeish?
21.
Miss Kramer?
21.
You used to be really good friends, and you claim that Miss Kramer owes you for her share of a trip that the two of you took to Las Vegas.
Correct.
And Miss Kramer says she had a lousy time, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to having a lousy time, she never agreed to pay you back.
That is incorrect.
Ms. Kramer, what do you do for a living?
I'm a student in retail sales.
Where do you work?
I work at Mervyn's.
You live by yourself?
No.
Who do you live with?
I live with my father.
In his house?
Yes.
Ms. McLeish, what about you? You're a student?
Yeah, I go to Golden West College, and I'm a retail manager at Mervyn's, and I live with my parents.
Okay, good. Now, you went on vacation?
Yes.
For how long?
3 days.
You were going there for what reason?
Because it was our 21st birthday, so me, her, and my witness wanted to have a good time, and on our 21st birthday, Vegas is like the place to be.
Good. So, you asked her to go with you?
Yes.
She said?
Yes.
And?
So I looked online for prices for hotel and airfare because we wanted to fly there, and after...
Did Ms. Kramer say that you should put these charges on your credit card?
I agreed to put it on my credit card, and the agreement was that she would pay me back before we left on August 1st.
Your Honor, that's not...
Just a second. She didn't pay you back?
No, she hadn't paid me back.
What did she tell you about paying you back?
She said she'll get back to me. So I figured it would, like, she'd pay me back when we got back because we were having a great time. We both had fun. We went out to dinner. We went dancing. We went to clubs. We went and got VIP everything. We didn't have to pay for anything. And all she did
Why
was...
not?
Why not? Because the month before we had made a connection. Our friend knows a lot of like security guards, and he knows a lot of bouncers, so we got to get in free. We didn't have to wait in like 2-hour lines to get in the best clubs.
Okay. According to you, you had a good time.
Right.
Came back, she didn't pay.
Right.
Go.
I never agreed to pay. When she said that the hotel, the price of it, I said that's way too high, and I'd rather just stay at my family's house because I can stay there for free.
So why didn't you?
Because when I told them that, they said, just don't worry about it.
And somebody dragged you on the plane?
Well, you know, it's my 21st birthday. I was trying to distance myself anyways, and that's why...
I'm asking you, somebody dragged you on the plane?
No.
Well, if you didn't want to go, why did you go?
Because they said just don't worry about the costs.
Well, why would you think that they would take you away on vacation?
Because that's what they said.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
I actually have pictures, if I could show you, of her having a good time dancing.
I don't care whether she had a good time or whether she had a lousy time. It's irrelevant to me.
Your Honor, I was trying to get out of the vacation because I didn't want to go with them. And when they said, just come on, please go, I decided, fine, I'll go. Because they said, don't worry about any of the costs. Don't worry about anything.
Your Honor, may I
go.
say something, please?
Step up. Tell me your name.
My name is Lori Irigoyen. And we spoke to her the night before we left, and she said, yeah, she couldn't afford it. But then we said, okay, we've still put it on a credit card. You need to pay us back, or you need to pay Ashley back. She didn't want to do that. Well, you can't.
Well, what did she say?
She said, no, I don't have to pay you back. If I don't go, I shouldn't have to pay you back.
Exactly.
Why did you call the night before?
Because I had talked to them recently before that also, because what I was doing was I was talking to my backgrounds investigator, and when I was going through looking at the lie detector tests and polygraph...
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
Well,
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
What it is I'm going for a future career in the criminal justice, and so I was talking to a backgrounds investigator, and she was showing me the polygraph test that you would have to be taking, and it had to ask questions about your friends and what you know about your friends, and that can make you fail and make it so you can't get into a premier area.
So
I had
please.
I had decided that I didn't want to be around any negative influences where I know that things are going on.
So why did you go?
Because I made a mistake. I thought...
Good. Yeah, that's what you say. You say, I made a mistake. And when you make a mistake, what do? Pay! Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $296.45.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Party back, Judy. You may step out.
I think after a while, people just stop being friends, and it just, like, you have nothing in common anymore.
I had been friends with her for over 9 years, and you kind of want to salvage a relationship.
She didn't want to do anything. She
the entire time.
The restaurant wasn't good enough for her. Nothing was good enough for her.
They just contradicted themselves afterwards because all I did was about the entire thing. How did I have this grand old time that they were saying that I had in the courtroom?
Is suing his ex-girlfriend, homemaker Sue Harris, for stealing Social Security money meant for their daughter. Sue says she took the money because James pays only $25 a month in child support for 3 kids.
Yes, it's case number 494 on the calendar in the matter of Young versus Harris. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Young, Miss Harris and you had a long-term relationship, and you have 3 children together, although you were never married. Is that right?
Correct.
How old are your children?
My oldest one's 16.
That's this young lady here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
My daughter Brittany, she's will be 14 this month.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter Ashley, 10 years old.
And how long did you and Miss Harris live together?
Just 9 years.
And all the children were born during that time?
Yes.
Well, could you just briefly explain to me why you had lived together 9 years, have 3 children, and why you never got married?
We were going to get married at one time, and the next thing I know, I was getting cheated on, what have you, and we could never get along.
I mean, if you were together 9 years, and you have a 16-year-old daughter, after
Correct.
the 16-year-old was born, well, hon, maybe we should make this official, you know, should get married, and then you have a 14-year-old. So 2 years later, you had another baby. Now you have 2 children, and you're living as a family. And 4 years later, you have another baby. So don't go what happened at the end of the relationship. What happened during those years that you were together? Were you married?
No.
Were you married?
No.
Did he ask you to get married?
He tried.
And why didn't you?
Didn't want to marry him.
You wanted to have his children but not marry him?
Well
is not an answer. I'm curious.
No.
You have something against the institution?
No, I just had something against marrying him.
But not against having children with him?
Well, the first one was an accident, and the second one, we went ahead and had the other one. That was another mistake, but I couldn't get out of the relationship. I had tried, and...
And then a third. Wonderful. Okay, this is your complaint. Your complaint is that your 16-year-old daughter, who for some reason gets Social Security...
Right off me.
You're going to tell me about that in a minute. Left her mother's home and went to a friend's house. I assume this is the friend?
Yes.
Friend of yours?
Yes.
And when you found out about it, you said, well, not only am I sending child support to you, also she gets Social Security from me, and you had that changed.
Right.
But there were several months when your daughter's Social Security was going to Miss Harris, and also your child support for your 3 children was going to Miss Harris. You want her to pay you back that money, right?
Correct.
Or pay the money over to...
Pay the money over to my daughter.
Now, when did you and Miss Harris separate?
February 28th of 95.
And you are currently under a child support order?
Yes.
What do you pay?
I pay $25 a month.
$25 a month for 3 children, or for each of the children?
No, for 3 children.
And how long have you been paying $25 a month?
Since I've been on my disability.
And when was that?
That was in 2000.
What's the nature of your disability?
I screwed up my hands and my arms, and I screwed up my lower back.
How?
By lifting wire at a plant.
So what do you do now?
Right now I don't do nothing.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
You mean you plan on not doing... That's 5 years you've been doing nothing?
I do odds and ends.
Like what?
I help the landlord out.
Help the landlord do what?
I go around helping collect the rent, mow the lawns, do the sidewalks in the wintertime.
Just a minute. You mow the lawns, and you do the sidewalks, and collect the rents.
Right.
Is that in the place where you live?
Yes. Yes.
Paid in check or cash?
He takes it off my rent.
How does he take it off your rent?
He takes like $30 a month off my rent.
You think I believe that?
Oh, I'm serious.
Uh-huh. I don't. Now, your daughter left home because you weren't getting along, is that right?
Yes, she didn't like the rules.
Okay, so she left home. And this is your friend?
Yes.
Are you still friends?
No.
When did you cease to be friends?
Well, originally, Ray, Trina's boyfriend, he was the one that I had signed guardianship of Tiffany over to. Okay? It wasn't Katrina that I signed guardianship to.
Did there come a point when you told your daughter that she could stay with Katrina?
Yes.
When was that?
In February.
February of
2004.
And after February of 2004, how many months did you collect Social Security for your daughter?
The checks were directly deposited into my account.
How many months?
6.
How much does she get every month for Social Security?
At that time, she was receiving $98 a month.
And you were getting $25 a month from Mr. Young? Yes. And that $25 a month, you want a piece of that to go back to your daughter?
Correct.
How much?
Split it up between the three. It's
Are you
hard.
crazy? Are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy. It's just.
Let me figure
I don't
this out for you. Just a second. I'm going to figure this out for you, just so you see how ridiculous your position is. I have to put on my machine, and I'm not really good at this. But here we.
8.33.
What?
$8.33.
No. That's $8.33 a month. 8.33 divided by 30 equals 27 cents a day.
Yeah.
27 cents a day is what you contribute to each of your 3 children, sir.
I understand that.
A large goldfish consumes more.
Well, yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. James Young says his ex-girlfriend Sue Harris owes for the return of Social Security money meant for their daughter.
All right. You get back nothing. You're a scammer to begin with, because anybody that can mow a lawn and shovel a driveway could work. And the fact that at 38 years old you've been collecting Social Security disability for the last 5 years is absolutely outrageous. The one thing I know that you do is you eat well.
Well,
Mr. Young, and I don't believe that your landlord, for the work that you do, takes off $30 or so a month from your rent. That's a lot of baloney. So I suggest you go get a job, because there are people in the Social Security Administration who, fortunately for the rest of the taxpayers in this country, watch us. Now, that's dealing with your $25 that you want $8 back a month for to give to your daughter. That's not dealing with the Social Security. The Social Security payments should have gone to the lady who was taking care of your daughter.
Yes, I agree.
So why didn't you give it to her?
As payee, I couldn't just stop being the payee.
No, you don't have to stop being the payee, but you cash the checks. The checks were direct deposit into your account. You go, you take out cash, $98 a month, and you give it to her, and you say, here's money for taking care of my daughter, who is living with you with my consent. You just have to do it. And you didn't. So for that, he's absolutely right. I won't like the fact that he's complaining about it, because he's not much of a provider.
I used the money to support the house on what he wasn't
The house is not the issue. The house is not the issue. Who is this?
That's my husband.
Does he work?
Yes.
That supports your house. Do you work?
No.
Well, you should. That supports your house. You don't take the Social Security check that's designed for her and use it to support your house. And if he needs more money to support the house, let him get 2 jobs. Her money doesn't go to support your house. 98 times 6 equals $588. Judgment for the plaintiff, the checks to be drawn to her name. What's your name?
Katrina Silver.
Katrina Silver. Thank you very much. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I understand what she said, but it was used for the house, and with him only paying $25 a month, it doesn't take care of 3 kids.
I am happy. My daughter's happy about it.
He just loves to control me and think he has something over on me all the time.
I'm not going to sit back and watch you take advantage of your own daughter.
I have nothing against my daughter. She knows she can call the house anytime she wants to.
I'm glad it's done and over with, and I'm very happy with her decision.
I love my daughter.
Underwood is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Sean Burge, for a loan to have his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy claims Sean lied to her about being married.
Now, this is case number 492 on the calendar in the matter of Underwood versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're the wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the girlfriend?
The ex-girlfriend.
You're the bargain? Don't see it. So something special that's just between you and you. Miss Underwood, according to your complaint, Mr. Burge and you were involved in a relationship. You didn't know that he was still married at the time.
Correct.
And you loaned him money. Loaned
Correct.
him money to do something called lifting his truck. I don't know what that means. You'll explain it to me in 10 seconds or less. Then you bailed out his car when it got impounded. What else?
2 tickets.
2 tickets. And you said you made loans to him because you actually thought that you were going to be building a life together based upon his promises and his statement that you were going to go to live in Arizona together and whatever. When you tried to find out when he was going to pay you. You went to his house, and lo and behold, his wife answered the door.
Correct.
Mr. Burge says everything that you gave him that he acknowledges he took were given as gifts,
Yes, Your Honor.
and he never fooled you. You knew that he was married and that he had children because he has tattoos of them all over him.
Tattoos does not mean that he's
But they're still together.
married, or the fact that...
And he says he doesn't owe you a quarter. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long are you married, Mr. Burge?
Over 6 years.
You have children?
Yes, 4.
When did you leave your wife?
Around April, May.
And when did you meet Miss Underwood?
Right at the end of May.
Where?
Through an ad in the paper.
What kind of an ad?
It was like a penny saver ad.
What did it say? Shh, quiet!
It said, this is who I am. And so I responded to it. She sounded interesting.
Why, after 6 years of marriage and 4 children, you separated? In a couple of weeks, you felt the necessity to find somebody else?
It's just I like having someone around. I wasn't out to build a relationship. I was out to find a friend. And, things were going good with us.
And when, for the first time, did she give you money?
It would be September 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right? Yep.
September 9th.
But I didn't give him anything.
Shh. Tell me what she gave you money for.
She did a lift on my truck.
Well, I don't know what that means. A lift for your truck means it's raised off the ground?
It raises it off the ground with bigger tires.
Why did you need that?
It was just something I wanted.
You have 4 children, so don't you think you should want to send them more money than raise your truck off the ground?
My children are well taken care of.
How much money did you earn?
Say again?
How much money did you earn?
I was making $15 an hour.
Oh, my God. A fortune. So what you're telling me is on $15 an hour, you can support your 4 children and you.
My wife works also.
How old are your children?
Twin 9-year-olds, a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old boy.
And who watches them when you're both working?
Daycare.
Who pays for the daycare?
We do.
Really? Your wife must be a very successful CEO of a major company.
No, she just works very hard for what she gets.
Harder than you.
We work equally.
Really? What kind of work do you do, Miss Burge?
I work for the phone company.
What's your annual salary?
54.
So you're the primary breadwinner in your family?
I make more an hour, yes.
Stand up. How many months were you separated from your husband?
Roughly about 6.
How much money did he send you for support during those 6 months?
We still live together, but we just stayed.
Is what you're telling me, Miss Burge, that you still lived under the same roof while you were separated?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that, Miss Underwood?
No, I did not.
You think your husband told that to her?
I don't know.
Trust me. Did he tell you about Miss Underwood?
No, we didn't share personal stuff about each other.
No, only 4 children. Did you ask him where he got the money to have his truck lifted?
No, ma'am.
See. Where did Mr. Burge tell you that he was living?
He said exactly where he was living.
Had you ever been there to visit him?
No, because he was always at my house.
How often was he at your house?
A couple times during the week, not for very long, but he came over a couple times during the week on Sundays, because Sunday was his only day off.
But you never went to his house until you were looking for him for the money?
Until New Year's Eve, correct.
Well, you weren't looking for him the money New Year's Eve. You were just looking to find him?
I actually was just looking to find him because he told me that we would be together, and then his friends called and said that he was drunk and passed out, so they were taking him to their house. So I decided that enough was enough, and I wanted to go find out what was going on, and lo and behold, the wife and 4 kids answered the door.
Mr. Burge, did you tell Miss Underwood that you were still living at home with your wife?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't see it as relevant at the time. We were just friends.
Well, you were friends. You were intimate.
Yeah.
You had taken money from her.
Yeah.
You knew that she had feelings for you.
Yes.
Did you feel as if you were being honest with her?
Not completely, no.
Right. I think you got the better end of the deal.
I think so, too.
Unfortunately, she didn't find out about his character until they had 4 children together.
That's her problem.
That's her problem. And not only that,
she can have him. I don't want him.
She can have him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Underwood says ex-boyfriend Sean Burge owes for having his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy says Sean is living a double life.
Tell me about having the truck lifted.
He said that the weight of all the tools and stuff he used for work weighed the truck down too much, so if we did that, then it wouldn't be as much of a strain on the truck. And at that point, I'm agreeing that, you know, we're going to try and start a life. We had already talked about starting a life. And I told him, okay, I said, this is the deal. I have a credit card that just got paid off. We could do this, but you have to make the payments on it.
And he said?
He said, okay. He said that would not be a problem. He would be able to make the payments. So we...
Now let me hear your version of the truck, sir.
Your Honor, weeks before that, we were talking. My birthday was coming up in October, and she asked me, you know, what do you want for your birthday? Jokingly, I said, I'd like to get my truck lifted. I never made arrangements to pay anything back, because if I could afford to pay her back on it, I would have paid for it myself.
What was the next thing you paid off for him?
His truck got towed.
When did your truck get towed?
I don't remember the exact date.
And what did you do when you found out it was towed?
I called to her and asked her if she could get it out.
Why don't you call your wife?
I didn't choose to.
You can either have a happy life or an unhappy life. The choice is yours. Do you understand?
I understand.
Just because you make an initial mistake doesn't mean that you have to go through your whole life suffering for it. How much did it cost to have the truck lifted?
$32.50.
How much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
$318.
And now we have the tickets. What about the tickets? Did he ask you to pay those tickets?
Yes, he called me at work and said, can we afford for you to pay the tickets? And I said, there's no we. I can do it if you can make the payments. I said, you have to agree to make the payments.
How much were the tickets?
One was $606 and one was $446.
What do you want to say?
I wanted to mention that I just want to reflect back on something that she had said when she said that he used to come over quite frequently. He works Monday through Saturday, and he was only gone on a Sunday a few times that I can recall.
Well, what do you think that this phantom relationship that he had with Miss Underwood was?
I really don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but
right. You do know, however, that he solicited her friendship while the two of you were married and living under the same roof. Mm-hmm. That he asked her for help, according to him, right?
Right.
Or something that someone would say to a new friend. We're building something together. I need some help right now. Mm-hmm. Separated from my wife, whatever. We're divorced. I don't know. Did he say you separated or divorced?
No, said he was divorced for about 1.5 years.
Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
I understand that.
Do you believe her that that's what he said? I want you to believe her, Miss Burge.
Okay.
That's what he said.
May I mention another thing?
Sure.
The night that she showed up on our doorstep, she did mention to me that she had told him that he needs to put an effort toward the relationship or she was going to sue him for the money.
And your point would be?
You know, it was okay for her to do this for him until she found out that we were still living together and that he and I ended up going, you know, started working on a relationship and he left her.
Because you got the prize. Is that right? Because you got the prize? And she didn't. And she didn't. I want to tell you, my darling, you got the booby prize. He's an unethical, amoral man who used her when it suited him. And he didn't even have the decency to say to her, I'm going back to my wife. I know you spent almost $5,000 on me. I'm going to pay you back, little by little, whatever it takes, because I don't want you to feel as if you've been abused by me. Do you understand? That would have been a decent human being. Instead, he says, see ya. You feel like a fool? You were a fool? I'm going back to my wife with my new lifted truck. And if that's the kind of character you want your children to grow up around, stick with them. You will reap what you sow. The next fool will be you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,620. Thank you. That's all.
Why did y'all choose? You must step out.
We started building a life together. He said he loved me, and I never knew about the wife until New Year's Eve.
I didn't lie to her about anything. I might not have told her things, but I didn't lie to her.
We had all kinds of plans. It wasn't just like a month, okay, boom, done, you know.
It just didn't work between me and her.
Christmas, you know, he promised my son he would be there, and all of a sudden didn't show.
Mistress is a mistress, you know. You end up coming out with everything or you come out with nothing.
It really hurt because I was in love with him, so